Three. Hi, everyone.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to TFT, Tarot for Today, Divine Dabblings with
Oberon.
and me, Banshee. Hey, we made it. I don't know how. I've had more Mercury retrograde snafus today.
I'll tell you.
My Bluetooth keyboard is not working now. So I can't use my regular laptop for the show. And so Mr. O's going to try to keep a list. It'll probably be minor. I think we'll only be able to fit in like 10 or 12 readings at the most. This is like really involved readings. They involve a number of different decks. Some of these are optional depending on the circumstances we have. Mr. O's got another deck by him over there besides these. Mr. O, I think I want to make you the keeper of the tarot decks.
All right.
Okay, for now.
Hi, Kara.
Hey, Kara. Good. Glad you made it. Should be fun. Okay. As I was saying, there's 4 decks here. There's 2 tarot decks. There's, well, one is only court cards. And then there's our... I guess I don't have the box, but it's called Remembering Far Memory. And it's a reincarnation deck. It's a past life deck. So that's what we're going to be basing a lot of the kind of the layering of where you were at in your past life. We've done this differently almost every time, but I think I like this reading depending on how it goes tonight. And so... if we can't fit people in, which is not a problem right now, we will kind of make a note of your names, I think. You know, you should put them on that note list. And we will give them priority the next time we have a past life reading.
Well, I'll have to keep switching back between that and the reading.
Yeah,
right?
okay.
Yeah.
I'll keep
That's
you on
fine.
track. I think it'll be pretty easy to follow. Sorry, Mr. O's getting the lion's share of the work today because of my computer problems. Thank you, Mercury retrograde. Anyway, I'm sure a new computer will be in my future at some point. Hey, Jebusen. Jebusen, we're only doing past life readings tonight. If you're here for that, you know, you can get one. But if not, we're not taking any questions. So this is a special broadcast. And you're welcome to stay and watch. It's a lot of fun if you don't want a reading. So, trying to think here, but nothing's happening. This is our second of 4 live shows we're doing this weekend because we'll be doing happy hour tomorrow at its normal time. And then we'll be doing our live show where we answer any question on Sunday at 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And of course, we did a show yesterday that went way into overtime. Holy moly.
All right, I'm up to date. I'm a little bit...
Okay, Jebison, we'll add you, absolutely. You're here early enough. Like I said, these readings are long, so we aren't going to take as many people today. All right. As if our other readings aren't long sometimes.
All right, that should be fine.
Okay.
So,
are we ready?
Beetlejuice is going to be a new subscriber, or at least for this show. That's fun.
Beetlejuice?
Read the comment.
Oh.
Jeez.
Oh, Beetle. It's to wait 10. Okay.
Right, once they subscribe, they have to wait about 10 minutes, I guess. That's the
Oh,
way it
I
is.
see.
I thought you knew that.
Well, thanks for, spreading the word. This is fun.
Thank you.
This will be fun. All right.
Thank you,
so,
Nicole. And you're first.
You're first, Nicole. So are you just looking for a general past life where you were at, not any kind of love relationship you wanted to know? If you felt, I think the love readings are in particular for people who know they've had a past life with someone.
And or feel strongly connected with somebody that feels like they've been together before.
And so we would do that past life and see how it turns out.
Okay, I'll love reading.
But we'll play with this. Okay, I love reading. All right. So basically we're going to see what, we're going to emphasize that in the cards that we get for you in that
That's
past
interesting.
life.
Read the chat. Do I have to read everything for you?
Is my twin. Oh, twin flame. So do you want us to do a past life with the two of you in it then?
Well, let's keep it in
Well,
mind, or
I guess. Do you want us? I guess we'll focus it that way, if that's what you want.
Yes,
Yes,
thank
got
you.
it. All right, let's go.
All right, so what's first?
Okay, so
let
basically,
me pull the reading back up.
I'm popping this up here in front of my. I can at least read off of this thing and do a minimal amount of typing.
Do we start with the?
So we're starting with the culture card. You might want to pick up the one. I believe it's the lapis one, the blue one.
Mm-hmm.
In the first row closest to you, Mr. O? The blue? Yeah. So, no, I think you want to mix them up a little bit and
okay.
then pull one out, or let me pull one out.
Okay.
Just a little bit.
Hi, Dextrose.
Hey, Dextrose, are you here for a past life reading? Because that's all we're doing tonight, or you're welcome to watch in the chat.
I'm not sure we can address that, but that is interesting. I don't think we have anything to do with it on our end. Notifications.
Oh, wow.
Some people have told us recently that they weren't sure how that was working either for them, like it had changed. And I know once in a while YouTube does something funny with algorithms, and then everybody gets a reset of sorts.
Okay, Dex wants to be added.
All right. So if I shuffle them or not?
Yes, I said just a little. You did fine. You done fine.
I'm going to bicker a little then.
So basically, this is the culture you were at. Wow, this is really interesting, Nicole.
And we're assuming that this could be, where your cousin as a twin flame appeared before, too.
It's India, Southeast Asia. Sonny.
India, Southeast Asia. Okay.
Oh, never mind, Sonny. That's my bad. So it's India, Southeast Asia. I want to see if they give a timeline in here for that. If not, I'm going to look somewhere else for that.
Hi, Ladybug. We're doing past life readings. You want one? It could very well be. I don't totally understand that concept, but that's what it sounds like when people try to describe it to me. Thank you, then. I'm going to add you and Dextrose, because I didn't get Dextrose when he came in a few moments ago.
Do you know what number's on that card?
25.
Okay, thank you. That helps tremendously. Here we are. I just want to double check timeline.
Yeah, so we don't do this very often, so we might be rolling with it until we get our rhythm here. We're not exactly sure how many readings we can do in our time frame, so we're going to play it by ear.
I'm going to see if I get a timeline from these cards. This is actually called the Time Traveler's Oracle by Denise Lynn, and there are various places on here, but I'm only looking for a timeline when I use these cards. I want to see if they will provide me with one. All right, that's interesting. It may not. I have a feeling this could be really ancient, though. Oops, looking at the wrong deck. I have a feeling this could be really ancient. Yes, we're talking many years ago, almost into prehistoric times, early times at any rate, in India when civilizations were just...
Okay, so yeah, and these days archaeology updates themselves all the time. But basically prehistory or pre-mostly known history.
Well, let's see. Let's see where this is leading. Okay.
So what's next?
So we'll talk about that in a minute. I don't know much about, the antiquity, those early ages in India to really speak on that. But we're going to definitely give you some information on this life. The environment is next. So that's the green card. And just grab, if you want to just grab at random Phantom and grab one, feel free. or shuffle very little. And then Phantom.
Well, there aren't a lot of them.
No, some of these are very small decks. A town. So I guess what I would consider this is not so much a town as it is a community. You know, whether they were living in caves or, you know, they were...
A nomadic. Semi-town. Or maybe the first where people stopped being nomadic and started to live more in a city setting. And that was a very transitional point in our history.
Yeah.
We mostly went as nomadic type peoples, especially in those Asian areas, but other areas. And
so
then at some
Southeast
point,
Asia,
people
India.
decided they wanted to not be nomads.
Yeah. That's really interesting. So, do you want to draw a tarot card? I would just fan through the deck and draw one.
A random pull. Okay. And why am I doing that?
Because we want a little more information on this environment. Well, okay, I like this. The nest. Look at that. I think that,
Four of Swords.
I think that people were very close, huddled together to take care of one another, which again to me maybe sounds like it could be a nomadic tribe, or it could be maybe an early agricultural community.
Well, I get a sense of a community that also had to had a lot of humanity in them. They had to take care of their frail or their olders or their things like that.
Yeah,
it's just an image I feel from the card.
That's the Four of Swords. So the Four of Swords also could indicate to me that, you know...
Hi, Victorious. Your alarm went off, I guess.
Is this Victorious?
Hi, Beetlejuice. No, that's the one that Jamie's Cowboys said.
Oh, okay.
We're going to add both of you guys. Hold on a moment.
Yeah, Victorious Moon is here. Okay, thanks. That's what I was asking.
But you said, are they the friend of, and I thought you were referring to...
We have Victoria and Victorious.
No, I didn't. I know you didn't mean Victoria.
I thought you said Victoria, though. I was just trying to clarify. Let's not argue. We don't got time. All right. So let me get back to this real quickly. I think that some illnesses could have hampered things in this community as well. You know, that can be a card of needing to rest and restore a lot. It could be that they worked such hard labor, whether it was hunting, whether it was gathering and growing, that, you know, they needed a lot of rest. Okay, let's move on to... Well, occupation. I'm really thinking, well, let's take a look at it.
Well, I can grab any of them. You just tell me which one.
Occupation is the...
I know which one it is. It's the white ones.
All right. You got this cheat sheet.
I thought you meant that maybe you wanted to pick a different one. No. Okay. It was the way you said that.
It was the way I said that, because in a nomadic tribe and whatnot, how many occupations do you think there are?
I would be the chief bickerer.
Okay, maybe there are a lot of occupations.
All right. Okay. Shall I reveal then?
Builder. Okay.
The builder.
Maybe somebody who tried to build, the huts or whatever that tents, whatever that they lived in, put pieces together. I'm sure there was a lot of community activity with some of these things, whether women were involved in creating the covering that was used, whatever. So I do think here that is what happened. And of course, because you were the first one, Nicole, I did one thing out of step here. It's not going to kill us. And that's why having a second person helps sometimes. Between environment and occupation was person.
So what is that?
So person, we draw a court card.
I'll let you do that.
So we're going to find out about you a little bit too. We're going to find out.
All right. Just because you said so, Dex. And that was not scorpionically sarcastic. Not even a little.
Pull one.
All right, so what is the significance of the court card?
What do you think? Turn
the
it
kind
over.
of person they were? All right. It says King of Pentacles.
the King of Pentacles and it was upright? Okay.
Yes, it was.
Well, the King of Pentacles indicates to me that you were a pretty prominent person in this community. Maybe you were a master builder of some sort that people relied on. And you certainly earned, whatever they bartered or traded for, you were treated well. It seems as though you were a man in this life and that you were pretty prominent. I wouldn't doubt you were maybe an earth sign. Do we want to pull for the partner now?
Maybe. I just wanted to indicate, because I haven't had a chance to say anything about the builder.
Sure.
Let alone that king.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I was just going to say, I hadn't seen anything here that indicated Nicole's possible twin flame, but I realize you're going to get to that. So it feels like this was like sort of a nascent kind of community. Like this was an early, from nomadic stage to more city stage or town stage. And maybe does this suggest that they were the builder? Yeah. So you may have been that kind of person that was actually that kind of laborer, but the King of Pentacles suggests that maybe this was you being in charge of that. You were the planner, that you were an architect, or you assisted the architects.
Well, architect, relatively speaking, since it's early man.
But you know what? Building things to last is some level of precision or science or whatever. Okay, so now what are we doing?
We're picking a card for your twin flame. We're focusing the reading more on you, Nicole, but there's definitely going to be things that come out about this relationship. And here's kind of at least the start of that.
And it's the Queen of Swords.
Wow.
And they're upright.
So you might have been very well husband and wife in this life.
Maybe you guys were the leaders of the community or important people in this community.
Yeah. And I think, your cousin, right? Is that who it is? Cousin?
Right.
Was this woman. And so, it seemed like you had a relationship. She was somebody who was, she was,
You were the brains, she was the brawn.
The Queen of Swords?
Yeah.
I would say she was the brains. She's a sword card.
Well, but I think the King of Pentacles is kind of a brain too.
You guys were evenly matched.
Okay,
with brain
I'll
power,
go with that.
I would say.
I'll go with that.
She was very much in charge of things herself. Maybe she led women in working on projects in the communities. And I say this in rather gender-specific terms because that's the way things kind of were, So
even now.
Even now.
It works that way sometimes.
That's funny. So I get the feeling here that you were pretty evenly matched together. And you're both well aspected, She's an air sign, you're an earth sign. I see nothing non-complimentary here. But let's see what happened. Can you draw a tarot card for this one? Four of Pentacles. Okay.
The Four of Pentacles, and it's upright.
I wanted to do that because I feel here, we wanted to give her something. It's really for her, but
put it over her.
Yeah,
then.
put it by her. It's going to get a little complicated, but it's really for her. And basically, she was somebody who was rather possessive. And she definitely she valued very much this relationship. She was really wanting to hold on to you, Nicole, for dear life.
Yeah, there's really a sense there that it also felt that you were very much life partners and able to really look at concerns bigger than your own personal lives, like i.e. this community or family that you worked with, that you were perhaps maybe more so her, always thinking about that continuity, how those people would survive into another generation, that kind of thing.
I'm going to need some room here. He is so
Come
not...
on, Sonny.
I've got two machines here. This is so sad. I'm hoping to get my replacement unless Amazon lets me down.
Hi, Alicia. And we are doing past life readings. Only. So if you want a past life reading, you're welcome to stay for it. But we're not doing regular questions.
You're pulling one too.
Oh, okay.
You're
well,
pulling
that was
one
confusing.
for the cousin.
Ah.
And they can be read reversed, in a way.
All right. But no.
But no. And neither of you are, but...
yeah, I am maintaining the list, so I'll put you on it, of course.
It is kind of interesting. Some attributes your person, Nicole, this man that you were, was that you were a wounded child. You definitely wanted to serve others, and especially other wounded children. You're open to learning and learning the path of forgiveness.
Great.
So I think here you had some issues. But it was all right because you know what? You were smothered by your cousin.
Was that under the shadow attributes?
No, it was the light attribute.
Oh, okay.
It's the wounded child.
Well, this one is, your cousin is the damsel.
Oh.
And under that it says, understanding the nature of healthy romance inspires you to rely on yourself. So not only were they the brains, they were sort of like the heart of things too. Maybe not the heart of the entire situation you had, but they were a real strong part of that.
You know, I think what basically this combination means is that you had some issues. They may have been about, we might find that out later, but I think it might have had to do with anxiety about being alone or being unloved. And you were with somebody who is more than willing to give that love, you know, and to hold on to you and to make sure you realized how much she valued you.
It really kind of makes sense why you guys are so close. This has probably occurred in other lifetimes too. I'm just thinking that.
All right, we got to move on here. We got a few more things. But the occupation, I don't think we need anything more there. The theme. Now, we're going to draw one theme card for the both of you, I think. And I said to draw a major arcana, but we're going to do, Mr. O, is you're going to shuffle the cards. And then, no, major arcana. You're going to shuffle. I pointed there. You're going to shuffle the cards, and then we're going to pull out, look for a major arcana. Cut them for me, and I'll do that.
All right.
See how we work together?
Nearly adequate. Nearly.
Well, it's starting to flow a little bit better.
We don't do this all the time.
And obviously, how many is that with Alicia? We may have to stop, actually.
I'll tell you in a moment. But yeah, that sounds possibly right because we're at 7:30. But let's see. We still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
The list is closed.
Okay, we will close the list. So, Alicia, you're our last person. And the only reason we might change that is if somehow we go through this very quick. But that's not likely. This is a pretty detailed reading. So hang in there, everybody.
But
and
it will get faster as we do this.
If you do leave, you can always come back to this recording and navigate around. I will post the list at some point that will help people navigate. Am I just cutting for you now?
Yes.
All right. But we hope you stay and we hope you find this entertaining. So I'm going to post that.
Can you pin that at the top? Because I can't right now. It's not.
What?
Pin my
note. I will. Yes.
Okay. When you can. So I'm looking for a major arcana, which is really the major theme or focus between you. And also we do need, hold on a minute here. We do need a theme. Oh, shoot.
Thank you, Dex. We haven't done one of these in about 3 years. We did several in our first couple of years, and then we haven't done any since. but we thought we really wanted to do it again, so
The
here we
theme
are.
cards are the red cards over there. And I'm going to draw a Major Arcana with that too.
All right.
I forgot about that, and so I just remembered.
Okay, so shuffle and grab one?
Yeah, shuffle and grab one. I'll be looking for the Major... Okay.
You're welcome, Jamie's. Is it upright then? Right?
Yeah, always. What is it? Fear.
Fear.
Oh my goodness. That's really interesting considering my next card. You know, it just might be the nature of these early tribal societies that, you know, there's warfare or there's catastrophes that they're unprepared for and stuff like that. Because I had pulled the Tower reversed. So I think here something went amok in the society. Something went amok and it caused a lot of panic and fear among you and your spouse. And, you know, it's hard for me to say. My guess would be that this happened a little bit later in your life. Not super late, but you were adults, clearly. You know, you were part of this society. I would say, you know, depending on lifespans there, you were probably pre-middle age because I don't think lifespans were that long.
I hate to be dramatic. No, I actually don't. But my psycho sense tells me that maybe this community was invaded at one point by other people who were trying to take over or exploit in some way.
I'm thinking that could be right. And I think here the problem was you were unprepared. Maybe you'd been attacked before or whatever had happened to you. You had some kind of warnings about it, but you didn't pay attention. That's what happens when the Tower is reversed.
Right. You might have decided there wasn't anything threat there, or the people in this community, whoever the ruling parts were.
So grab that last card. The last card is actually about how you died.
That's the purple one.
With the infinity symbol. Because you get reborn again. In this present life or other lives in between. I'm sure there must have been some other lives in between.
Did I
He's
nail
right.
it? Did I nail it?
Look at that.
War.
You both died in war. I really feel that was both of you. This happened and it took you both out.
Right. And, you know, that's the history of prehistory, you know, the nomads, the Huns coming across the steppes in Asia. That was, of course, hundreds of years later, but it's, you know, more not so prehistoric, but that's just the way it goes, sadly.
If it wasn't outright war, but we're really getting that strongly because of the fear in the Tower here. I mean, it's possible, too, it could have been intra-community warfare where there was a rebellion amongst people in the community and you fought with each other. But either way, I feel that your lives ended in war.
All right. We're going to move on then. So thank you, Nicole. You are evening's guinea pig. If we want to look at it that way.
All right, now to put all the cards back, that's the fun part.
So now we will be on to Libra.
Okay, Libra, just a general past life for you, or do you have anybody in mind? You want to know what past life you shared with them? Oh, I forgot something for Nicole.
What's that?
The last card. Nicole, are you still here? There's one more card.
If you're still here, we hope you are. We got one more thing.
Basically, this is sort of the karma card. In other words, what's kind of the takeaway from this life? And, you know, for both of you, I guess, and what happened to you there. Is there some lasting imprint or issues related to that
right,
that
so
need to be
this
addressed?
might give us an idea about anything else to do with the twin flame concept.
These are
there.
only read upright. Pull one out.
I like that one, but I know it's stuck. Always upright?
Yes. Lack of communication? Is that what it says?
Yes. Okay.
So,
Is it possible that as a twin flame, it took maybe a few lifetimes to refine yourself, and maybe some of that was some separate issues of karma that weren't exactly entwined? And I'm wondering if it has something to do with the way things ended in that life, that maybe because of the war, maybe one of you didn't die right away, maybe one of you was sold into slavery or something else happened, and that might have imprinted for that. I don't know if that's how it works, but
what is the name on that card?
isolation,
Oh,
lack of connections, it says.
It's lack of connections. That's different. So, sometimes when we're traumatically, killed like that, and, it may be difficult and also just because of the violence, it may be difficult to trust again, and it may be difficult to connect deeper connections. I don't know if the two of you have had issues with that or in your ability to connect with others, but there might be, and this isn't like necessarily
Thanks, guys.
between the two of you in this life, how you communicate with each other, but how you express yourself to the world and interpersonally with others. This is like a shadow. Remember we talked about this before? How this could be a shadow in a way?
Yes, that's right. I'm not sure if I can expound on that. I still get the feeling like maybe you both died because of the war, but not necessarily in proximity or under the same circumstances. And so that also created that traumatic feeling.
So see, it does talk here, I just want to be sure I wasn't talking out of my head here, but it does talk here about possibly isolate, you're trying to avoid real deep connections with others. And it does say your past life energy, you may have lost your family or community through war, drought, or some other natural disaster. It fits right in.
Full circle, yeah.
So that's why I like doing these readings. So at any rate, that may be an issue that you just have to come to terms with.
All right.
I hope that made sense, Natalie or Nicole. I'm sorry. Good luck with that.
I'm not sure if Libra stuck around, so we might just go with a straight up past life.
Oh, is Libra gone?
They didn't respond when we were asking that question.
Uh-oh. Do they really want a past life?
Well, I believe they understand that because they talked about it on the show last night too, I think.
That's true. I thought they did.
So I think we should just do a past life for them and see how it goes.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you guys are huge isolators now. That's interesting. That's
Really?
very interesting.
Wow. Well, that's just something, maybe you're being overly protective. Maybe that's something you want to, think about. And but sometimes that's just the way people feel comfortable too. And if that's what you're supposed to experience in this life, then make the most of it. All right, let's move on.
Well, I tend to be aloof myself, despite
put
my
this back by
charming
you.
personal nature.
All right, let's go to Libra then, and let's do
All
it.
right, so let's do a past life for Libra.
And we're going to start. Okay, it's culture, environment, and then we do the major arcana, or we do the person. So
Okay, so it's the blue cards again, right?
yes.
All right.
No, wait. Culture is. Oh yeah, they are lapis. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Don't get all nervous.
I'm not nervous. I'm excited.
I'm pretty excited too. This is fun. So it says South America. So Libra, maybe you had a past life that was in South America. We're going to see what we can find out about that.
Is there? No, there's no number on that card. I know where I got it.
29.
20. Yeah. Well, there's lots of 29s in this deck. South America. Proto-historic South America is covered with ancient ruins. Many date back. I'm not ready to give a timeline yet. I might go to the other deck for that. What I think I want to do this time is check out, before we do, the environment. But you were definitely a part of South America, which I think is nice. It may go back to proto-historic, but maybe not.
Well, yeah, up
Proto is
until
current, right? More current.
up until a couple hundred years ago, it
Prehistoric.
was, more like an undiscovered country. But after, coloners first came here, the last 400 years, it slowly has become much more. But there's always a big part of South America, the Amazon, the rainforest. I mean, let's face it. So what was the environment like? Oh, you're going to do it? All righty.
Wow. Mountainous.
The Andes.
The Andes. I know, I was just thinking that.
The Andes Mountains, perhaps.
Yeah.
There may be some other ranges there I'm not aware of, but
A
or
mountainous
don't remember.
region. All right, that's okay. Let's get the. You know what? I guess I'm going to do it. I'm going to see if I can get a time frame from here. Real quick. Actually, I'm just going to shuffle it once because you're going to pick one at random. And let me see it because I need something from there. Ooh. Light, the angelic realm? Wait a minute here.
We're only on our second reading, Libra.
Who's up? Who's asking?
That was Beetlejuice.
Oh, we're sorry.
Yeah.
This might take a while. And Beetlejuice.
Your friend should have told you we're kind of gabby.
Well, these are longer readings. So I'll tell you what. If you cannot stay, just let us know what type of past reading you want. Just a general past life, or one involving maybe a relationship with somebody else you know now. And if you're wondering, you had a past life with them. Okay. So I'm sorry. What was that number again? God. 24. Why can't they do numbers and not spell it out?
Thank you, too.
It's really not giving me the time frame.
All right.
So I'm
So
going to
are we going to show it?
I'm going to let this go. I'm looking at the mountainous region. I personally want to see, once we get to the, and not the environment, the occupation and stuff, I might have a better idea. But
Well,
let's pull the person card. Let's see what we get with the people.
Okay.
We do want a tarot card, though, you know what, for the environment. Pull a regular tarot card.
And it's the Ace of Swords reversed.
Oh, okay. So I think this is saying that life there was a bit of a struggle. I think here that it was hard to really, it was more of a sense of survival and just maintaining rather than having a real rich kind of life.
The word that comes to mind are startups and then slowdowns, so like it may have been a kind of life where maybe some achievements were made, but then sometimes there was a little bit of a backpedaling from that. And that could be for different reasons. If the community or the area had climate issues or had other kinds of situations happening, natural situations.
Libra's got the Queen of Swords. So
Queen of
Libra in this
Swords.
life, I think, you were a woman. You grew into a woman of some maturity. You were very. I almost have the sense here that you were kind of not warrior-like, but rugged. You know what I mean? You had to be to survive. I think that mountainous life, and so you were able to do a lot of walking, hiking, and really doing some heavy kind of labor sort of things.
Well, the other thing too is that a Queen of Swords is almost always in charge of certain areas, either of their own life or maybe of other lives. And so maybe you had, decisions that you had to make, and you had to sort of be strong enough either in personality or resources to support those choices or to enforce them if necessary.
I'm not totally convinced you had children in this life. It's possible you may have had one or two, but I really think this was more of a, you weren't solitary. You may have had a mate, but I'm not sure you had a child.
I'm not feeling any
I know.
particular feeling about that one way or the other, so
No.
I haven't seen it yet.
No. So let's look at the occupation.
Okay, and that's the white.
Yeah. And I do think I want to do archetypes for the person, too. I'm going to use the Citadel for this.
Are you picking this one, or shall I?
You shall. I'll pick
All
this.
right. I'm going to go with that
Sonny.
one. Well, I guess we were wrong.
What?
It
Well,
says
you're
you
the
were a
one who
mother.
wasn't feeling it as much as me. I said 1 or 2. So you were a mother. You were a mother who ruled, I don't want to say cruelly, but I would say you had to,
Is it,
be tough.
is it
Tough
possible you
love.
took care of other children?
maybe, but we haven't really. That is the occupation. I
Okay.
suppose that could be true.
You know,
That could
somebody
be
that
true.
maybe helped other parents or other people with children. And there were different names for those kind of people: nannies, nursemaids, things like that.
Why don't you draw a tarot card for that one and see if we get
All right.
any clue? I think that would be okay for that.
That's fine. That sounds cute, of course. So it's the reverse 6 of Pentacles.
Okay, maybe you were helping people who were who needed assistance, so you might have helped children in some way. Maybe you were kind of a teacher or somebody who taught them different arts and crafts, survival skills up in the mountains.
It seems like it wasn't necessarily about money, because it doesn't seem like it was an equal exchange. It might have been something you were expected to do.
You were
So
expected to do.
right, so it may have been an aspect of that culture or that tribe or that community.
I kind of also feel, with seeing the aspirant here come up for you, that you wanted more. You wish there was more things you could be doing, or different things that you were doing. You wanted to aspire to be something else.
I kind of get that. It could be that because of your station in life, either and or being female, maybe you were relegated to a role, but that Queen of Swords suggests there was an intelligence there that maybe led you to think you could really be more if you had those opportunities.
The occupation.
And that's the red one?
No. That would be the white. What was that?
Oh, I thought we did that already. That's the mother.
Oh, well, we did do
did the
that.
white
The
one.
theme then. I'm sorry, the Red Cross.
It's okay.
You're right. We're moving faster than I thought.
Well, you're calling me to do those, so you're just forgetting you moved that fast.
And I'm going to do this while you draw that.
I
I have to look for a major arcana.
trusted to draw.
What is the theme of this life?
And these kind of like are a spectrum, like a range, right?
I think you were teaching them different crafts, different-
Creativity.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think.
So maybe yes, right. If this was really more on a very much pre-industrial side of life, literally, second world, third world, Stone Age life, there may have been a role for you in teaching, harvesting, teaching, planting, teaching things about, creating pottery or situations for the tribe or the people.
It's interesting that this came up again, because in a way it goes with that 6 of coins.
Oh, right, yes.
This
It's
lack of
temperance reverse.
balance. It's almost as if you either felt you weren't suited for this work, or you didn't like this work.
It's like what we said before, that you were capable of more, you aspired
The
to more.
Aspirant card. That's what I'm
Yeah.
almost thinking here with even that lack. You just wish there was more, that you could be doing.
So
And,
it really feels like, you had ambition and you had moxie or whatever you want to call that, but because of whatever regulations or whatever, you were sort of limited in your role, but it left you aspiring.
And being that Queen of Swords, and I said you kind of had a warrior spirit, Libra, I think it's basically because you were meant to, you would rather been fighting with the men or hunting with the men than maybe doing this kind of work. That's kind of what I'm feeling here. And by the way, if I didn't mention it, you were probably an air sign.
Another
All right,
Libra even.
termination. How did you go?
Ah, purple. Whoops.
Yeah, that one doesn't belong.
Do you want to draw this one?
Okay, he wants me to pick the death.
Now that you've picked her death, just kidding.
I know. We aren't giving her 2 deaths.
Well,
Oh, but you're in the mountains. Maybe flooding. Maybe a landslide caused by flooding.
well, that's still like a western coast of South America. Maybe there's seismic activity, or back then there was. So if there was an earthquake, there might have been some resultant flood situation afterwards or something like that.
Well, since they lived in the mountains, I'm thinking, or I guess it was a mountainous region, but I'm assuming you lived in the mountains, basically. And so if that's the case, I think it could have been a landslide or something where water, there was some flooding that caused that to happen. That's what I
Right, it
think.
could just be saying in general you drowned.
Yep, you drowned. So that's kind of a traumatic death. Let's see what came out of what lesson we have for you here, which is this deck. All right. That you are taking into this life.
We don't know. Maybe we'll do it again sometime. We
Yeah, we
probably want to get better at
absolutely-
it so we can make it run a little quicker,
Yeah.
But we think it's a lot of fun. Thanks, Nicole.
Longing for love. You didn't feel loved in this life, apparently. What number's on that card, is there?
20. So it says loneliness, longing for love. And of course, the pieces sort of fit. You were sort of told to take care of these children or to teach these children. Maybe you were the village teacher or somehow were involved in that. And, nobody saw you as a romantic partner, or your role just didn't
And
move
maybe
that way.
that's why you always wanted more out of life. You felt unloved in this life. And so basically, you might be carrying some of this mark with you in this life. And it could lead to you potentially, getting involved in loveless relationships where you don't feel, like you're being appreciated. It could also be maybe, again, that, you're avoiding relationships or you're always looking for it, right? And so maybe you have, expectations that are unreasonable or different aspects of that. What do you feel
we're
about
certainly
that?
no
card?
psychologists,
No.
we're just sort of folkloric ones. But, maybe from a karmic point of view, this does sort of present a trigger or something in your karma or in your reincarnation that, mostly you want fulfillment from loneliness. And so that may be a driving force, and that when you feel like issues happen that maybe, separate or isolate you, those are bad triggers for you too.
What I like about this deck, because we did say you were married, it's speculated that it's possible your mate died at an earlier age than you. So you were widowed, maybe taking care of these children, your children and others, and it was a struggle. And so that does have an impact on your life today.
Hi, Ronald.
Right.
And mentioning Christina's nice. We actually did close the list because we think these are longer readings than normal. What do you want to do with that?
I don't know. Well, if you want to, we're only doing past life readings today, right? So if that's what you want, I guess we'll fit you in, but that's it. We're going to be going into overtime anyway.
Right.
So.
Well, do come back for tomorrow's program, Happy Hour, or also our live show too, because I think they're indicating it's no problem.
Oh.
And certainly we, respect and are interested in you. So this is a special kind of reading we don't normally do. In fact, it's the first one we've done in years. So
So we're just creating a new way of working with all these cards.
my suggestion would be to come back for our happy hour tomorrow morning if you can, or check out our website. That you'll see other schedules.
He ought to explain what happy hour is, though. Happy hour is only a single card message from Spirit. We take no questions. But on Sunday's show, we'll answer any question you have for us. So come on down 2 to 4 p.m. Sunday, and you'll get a regular reading from us.
And I don't have that information right here. I can throw you. This is sort of a quickly realized studio setup here. But yeah, our YouTube channel has most of the other information about us or shows the schedule. So
anyway, we got to go.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Christine.
Thank you much. Feel free to stay and watch. It's fun.
We're told we're entertaining.
Who's up?
It's I think it's Jamie's.
Is it Jamie?
Yeah.
Jamie!
Hey, Jamie's. And I should redo the list.
All right, Jamie, are you ready? You want a general or you want a love?
And there's our list again.
Is my best friend in my past life. We are very close.
Good question.
That's almost like a yes-no.
No, let's do it. Give some information on that. Yeah.
Well, we're going to pull the cards and see if we get...
Well, we can pull that extra card for the best friend, right?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
But then it's like they're in that past life automatically.
How do you want to do it?
I think we'll do it.
All right.
We're going to assume you guys shared a past life. You're very close, right? This is one you're very close to. So
I think you've talked about them before. All right.
Let's see what kind of past life we have. We're going to be starting with the culture, of course. And you're ready. Boy, look at you.
Well, hey, we got a list to get through.
That one was shorter, but interruptions are, coming in. So that's... Gotta keep them short. We got... Whoa.
Okay.
How about being in an Islamic culture?
Okay, so we're not sure if this is about both of you or... Well, I guess it is, because that's how we're looking at the question.
What number's on that card?
It's number 24.
Yeah, there it is.
So you may have been in an Islamic culture together. We're sorry, Christine. We just turned away your friend Ronald, too, because these are longer readings, and we're only on just starting our third one, and we're halfway through. So
we will probably do this again in April. And you know what? We will keep everybody in mind who didn't get this reading. I told Mr. O to put some names down. Maybe put Ronald and Christine down at the bottom of that page.
I can do that.
Okay. I know you won't.
No, it's okay. It filled up as it did, and on our end, we probably underestimated the amount of time each reading was going to take us to do. I mean, I think as we move through our list here, we'll probably get more, easy to go all the way through it. But the first reading took nearly a half an hour.
Well, yeah, and we're talking too much, so let's get going. You are going to pull a card for Jamie's Cowboys?
Didn't I? It's Islamic.
Islamic, that's right. So I have to pull Major Arcana. I know what I was doing, actually, and it threw me off. Before I do the Major Arcana, pull a card. Never mind. I need to keep it going. Okay, this might give me some info. Hold on a second. Just trying to get a time frame. Yeah, there is none. Okay. That deck I'm going to remember is not as helpful as I thought. So it was in the Islamic. It could be in the early Islamic era, but I'm pretty sure just by the feel of things, let me pull a tarot and see if it gives me a thought on that, that it's really more modern than the earliest, like when Islam was still getting off the ground. However, early Islam had a lot of warfare that went on. And I pulled the Queen of Wands reversed, which kind of indicates to me, if I think about, fire energy in reverse, I could see a little bit of warlike energy there. So I'm thinking it is more in the earlier times of Islam, not at the very beginning, but just, periods after that. I mean, when you stop and think about it, there was the Crusades, there's all kinds of different wars that went on in Islam. Am I right, Mr. O?
There is, but this community or this culture invented chemistry and a lot of things that are basically high caliber science, and had it in their own oriental view of what the world, the Western world was going on in its own way and had no clue at that time or in the beginning part.
So environment.
That's the green one?
Yep.
Fields.
Oh.
So, these are some of the countries where olives are grown and various other, plants, so obviously this represents a more rural, perhaps, area there, and maybe that would involve, either being in fields that were producing or just that kind of atmosphere or environment was there.
One that, had a little bit more moisture, obviously, so that things could grow. A little bit more rich terrain, land than, because a lot of, places are deserty, but there are places where they grow, like you said, olives, etc. So, all right, we're going to go to the person next, as I finally have on track with that. So let's see what we get. And we're going to draw one for you, and then one for your bestie. Page of Swords.
Page of Swords.
You were young.
So it's a younger person.
I want to draw the other one before we talk about you. There's a reason for that.
You're welcome. Do I keep it reversed?
Yes.
Okay, so it's the reversed Queen of Wands. No, that's Pentacles. No, that's Wands. Because of the cat.
Okay, good. The cat's always a sign. Well, this is interesting. Your bestie was your mom, and you were the child. Okay,
I love it.
Because you are the page, and I think here, you were air, and she was
fire.
Fire.
So somewhat
fire
compatible.
And air kind of fuels air fuels fire, but the thing is that she had some issues. She may have hid a lot of her. I almost get the feeling here somehow, and maybe Mr. O will take this in a different direction, that it's not like the Swords or Pentacles, but she had a way of not paying attention as much to you as she should have, being reversed, I think she had some ego issues and maybe was not all that attentive as a parent, which is interesting in that culture, but
I'm picking up a psychosense that says that, she was one of two or more sisters or other siblings, and somebody got a better arrangement than her, the older child maybe, and so she was, there were a lot of arranged marriages in these cultures, so
True.
She was bid to marry somebody that maybe, she didn't appreciate as much as she might have, but she felt this was her life, and so maybe there was a little bit of resentment about that, but I don't think that marred necessarily everything in her life. It was just, sort of accepted really by people then that's how things would go.
And now I would think that she would not get away with, being very, and I'm wondering if you were a male or female in this culture. Pages are very ambiguous to me in that regard.
Right.
I can't really say, But I almost feel here, if you were a woman, she might have been a little bit harsh treating you. And if you were a man, she may have been a boy, she may have been a little bit more neglectful. Because I don't think she could get away with harming a male child so much as she could a female, depending on the culture. But I mean, and I might be throwing some modern sentimentalities into this.
If there's a sense that maybe she was overly bearing, it could be that if you were living in a culture where farming or working the land was important, then she had to keep children on track with that, that kind of thing, and teaching of obedience and all that stuff.
And it's highly possible she had to play a role in some of the gathering process, which, maybe also took her away from the children.
Even if she was severe, there may be other reasons why you guys are really connected. I mean, that's just one lifetime,
Right,
so.
We could be mortal enemies. Look at us how we fight. We could be mortal enemies in a past life, but we are married happily today.
All right, let's move on.
Let's move on quickly.
Next card.
Okay, so we killed that one. Occupation. It's just your occupation. Let's see what you did.
Wasn't that this one? No, it wasn't. Okay.
It's the white card, right?
Right. There's so many cards there.
I know. Maybe we have to give up on some of this stuff or do it with tarot, but
we'll have to
some of these cards
figure out
have
how
some
we
pretty
can make
good
it more
nuance.
succinct, All right. Occupation. Health.
Oh,
well, maybe
you
if
might
you
have
were
been
a person that
healer in the
worked with
community.
growing things or was in this thing, maybe that was your role, that maybe you helped dispense, herbs or medicines or things that were needed for people's health. It seems more likely that would be your mother, maybe. I'm not sure. Should we pull a card for that?
No.
Okay.
Well, wait. Yes, we do have cards for this. So let me try this deck. This is what I'm looking for. We need the partner, though, don't we? We have the partner. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we did. Right.
We're on occupation.
But this is the occupation, health. Did you want to talk about that?
I did, and I basically said that I felt you were a healer. So, and I think it would be more a male profession than a female in that culture. That's my feeling.
That's a good point.
But I could be wrong.
Well, is it possible you could be non-Islamic but living in Islamic lands? Okay.
Oh, just keep doing that. Now, how am I supposed to... Well, okay, hold on. Okay, this is not what you were because we said you were a healer, not a prostitute. But there are attributes.
It's the mom.
No, there are attributes to this card that are important. So, and I think go beyond just saying prostitutes, really character traits. And what it says is you engage lessons in the sale or negotiation of your integrity or spirit based on fears of physical and material survival or for financial gain. So basically, healers back then, weren't able to heal everybody, right? And of course you had to guess at some things, or, you had to be smart and try to figure out what to do in certain circumstances. And I'm sure you had to maybe sell yourself out sometimes to try to, make ends meet and get people to take care from you. And also when things go wrong, I'm sure you had to negotiate there too. So it's really interesting here. And you had to be careful not to be seduced by the money. I think that's really important in this card as well. So, and also, you wanted to be looked at really highly by others, that they trusted you, that they liked you. So that's what's interesting about this card.
I guess I'm having a failure to understand. I'm not quite putting it together with the health card.
I am.
Is it because you have to save or sell or barter your services that this became an aspect put on you?
Well, I think here, whenever money's involved, we can kind of sell our souls to
Okay.
the almighty dollar, right? And in Islam, that's a real interesting thing, because I always thought in Islam they were very much into giving to the poor and not so much into receiving, especially if people could not afford care, right?
Well, that's maybe what people mostly think. I'm not an expert enough to know.
So in
for
other
sure.
words, you might have been a little bit of a shady healer. I have to tell you. I have to say it, Jamie.
Is the clue through the friend who is the mother in this past life? Because of that reverse stuff
No.
there? Okay.
I don't know why you keep going there, but if you got to go there, say it.
Okay, what's next?
I think that as far as occupation goes, your mom maybe steered you to it. I could say that. She might have steered you to it because, hey, maybe, I don't know how families supported their elders back then, but maybe that was part of it too. She expected you to take care of her. So that could be what's going on here too. All right, onward. Theme.
What?
The theme card, the red card.
I know.
I gotta look for it.
So it may go with the environment to some degree, the rural existence and or the culture, but it seems like there are issues of stability or instability in this life. And so maybe it means a life that has certain challenges or obstacles. Maybe there's things moving around that you have to keep up with, or maybe it's traveling itself. Maybe it has things to do with this idea about what you did for a living, or how you sustain yourself by selling what your services were.
The stability or instability may be due to the fact that you were kind of radical or different. Maybe some of your healing practices were unique and caused you some issues from time to time. It's possible here, that some people appreciated what you did, and maybe some people thought some of what you were doing was going maybe against religious principles or other things, right? Other cultural things.
Well, maybe it's like I said, and there's a part in this timeline here, and it's probably a little ways back, but around there maybe, where there were countries where Christians, Arabs or Muslims, and Jewish people lived in similar communities or related communities. So my question again is, like, maybe you're in an Islamic era, but maybe you're not really an Islamic person, even if that community around you might be. So maybe you're a trader who's traveling through the land trying to sustain themselves. I don't know.
A healing trader?
Well, you have things to sell. You have potions and herbal.
I see. Oh, that's right. He's thinking your part of the healing was being a pharmacy seller of like, or what would we call it back in the old days?
Snake oil
salesman. Which I can't help but wonder, Jamie, because of that prostitution part. All right, but let's see what your demise was. Maybe there's something here we need to see.
Let's do a little swell of dramatic music. Dun 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 dun. Snake oil. How did you die? Do you want her to pull it?
Yes.
Oh, she's eager to
Man, if I
send you
get
to your
poison
fate.
or something, I'm going to crack up.
Blame her.
Well, maybe the stability and instability was about something else.
Oh no. And your crops failed and you starved. It said you were a farmer, right? Or you were in the
It's
fields.
possible maybe just in this farming community,
Starvation.
drought happened, the land went barren and, you eventually starved. I believe, even though you're the page in the story with your friend, that you may or may not have died together. or your mother may have died first, maybe even. And it's hard for me to say. Do you know what? I think we're going to pull a demise for the partner. Let's pull a demise for the partner. Put starvation back into the mix because I want to see if it comes up again. I'm just having a feeling here. She probably died before you. I think you grew up. I don't think you died as a child, as a page, but because you had, an occupation as a healer. So, but you probably weren't like an older man either.
Well, things change. Climates change even back then, and maybe, depending, there just was scarcities.
What you got? Oh,
well,
your mother had an accident.
Yeah, she had some sort of accident. I mean, I suppose that could even be, something like we take for semi-granted today, a heart attack. Is that a natural death? There is a card for that, isn't there?
There's for natural
So
causes,
catastrophe is an accident of some sort. It could be anything, something that happened at the town square,
it could be
a statue fell
environmental.
over.
I mean, it could be maybe in fact that she did die of starvation, or it's possible here that there was some weather event that caused, her demise. But I'm almost convinced she passed before you. She was your mom, and eventually the crops failed, and you passed on. So what's the lesson from this life for you? And takeaway for maybe both of you? Maybe it's why you kind of resonate with one another?
And of course, like anything else we do, there's no 100% this is what happened. This is kind of like what we think the cards say happened. Uh-oh. Oh. So we actually pulled that card that talks.
What number is that?
It's number 22.
I went right to the
Parent,
page,
child,
too.
family.
This is freaking me out.
So your twin flame or your big flame, your connection is that you're almost always in family proximity to each other.
Huh. So is one of you younger than the other? I'm curious.
Is that the dynamic that you find yourself in lives in that kind of semi-reversed role, one of you being more of a mentor or parent type to the other?
It's kind of funny.
What she says yes.
Okay. It's kind of funny here because, this could be a reversal in a way of that life where if you're older, you're now kind of the more mature person than your friend. But, the other aspect of this is that it's ironic this came up because we saw that you were a parent, she was parent and child, and it does say here something about power mongering, power struggles. Between a harsh parent, maybe a harsh parent in the past. There may be some karma playing out here because of her overbearingness with you in this past life or neglect with you in this past life. And, maybe you're here now to kind of balance those scales with one another. And when you think about it, Jamie's Cowboys, friends should really be on that equal level, not one over the other.
No, you gotta whoop her ass.
Maybe that's why in this lifetime you are best friends.
No, you don't. I'm just being silly.
So it's interesting.
But yeah, it's like maybe, between lives you invert your roles.
It's pretty fascinating.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I love when the synchronicities come up with these cards like that. It's pretty awesome. All right, we're moving on. And you know what? Obviously, we're not giving you tons of information. Some of these books carry a lot more information about the culture of the time. You could look up Islamic countries. You could think if anything resonates with you. And I'm just talking in general to everybody getting a reading today. Do some research on the cultures, and if we give you kind of a time frame, see if you can find some historical stuff. Hey, Wikipedia's your friend. AI is now your friend, I guess, with some of this stuff. So, see what you can find out and feel like the South American life and all these other things we mentioned, if this resonates with you. All right.
All right, so Kara is looking for Norse or Celtic past lives, but what comes out, comes out.
Kara. What comes out, comes out.
Well, that's like number 2.
But you know what? I always, now when you voice it, sometimes you do steer the cards that way, so you never know. All right, Mr. O, let's get this show on the road.
Is that the blue one again?
Yes.
Do you want to pull it this time?
Don't wreck my cards.
I didn't.
Handling my cards.
You still didn't answer my
I'm going
question.
to shut this. What?
Now you're answering it.
I just said what?
This was the question. Did you want to pick it?
Well, Kara,
So this is the
we
culture.
at least got a time frame for you.
Okay, this could be possibly Norse or Celtic, but it's the Dark Ages, so it does imply possibly European, but Dark Ages is more about a time frame. The so-called Middle Ages, maybe
So
500, 600 to 1100, something like that, whatever. I don't remember exactly.
what number is that card?
It's 21.
Ah, I didn't go far enough.
But I'd like to think that, of course, the Dark Ages mostly applies to the European Dark Ages, that people in Asia or other parts of the world didn't have the same things happening to them. They might have had a lesser or more lifestyle based on whatever, but they didn't have the Dark Ages as we know them. The Dark Ages talks about a lack of knowledge, a lack of prosperity in certain respects.
Yeah, it was a rough time, to say the least. And they do talk about the Greco-Roman period, the world being deliberately destroyed and left in ruins. I don't think you were from around that part, but they do speak of a lot of harshness and warfare. I mean, I just don't know that this would be relevant. And where did my cards go? Let me see. Okay, I put that one in there now. Yeah, that would definitely not be relevant. I just want to be sure. So, you know what? We're going to go with that, and we're going to decide maybe by some of the information we get from the environment, Mr. O. I'm also going to draw a card for the culture just to see if I get an idea. Let's slip one out here. Well, I think you might have been moving around a lot. Times were hard. It's possible people, a lot of people did not stay in one place for long.
It feels like you had to move around by necessity, that you were really looking for your place or for where you could prosper. And so that may not have come easily in this lifetime or, right away. Maybe it never came. I'm not sure.
Just looking at that Two of Wands, and even reversed, it's kind of like a wanderlust. It's possible, too, maybe you could not travel. Maybe you did get stuck somewhere.
Maybe the people be all like, get out of here, you Viking.
Oh, stop it, you. Come on.
Oh.
Taking forever. Do it. Fields again. Huh. Well, okay. So you worked the fields. And maybe you were a kind of laborer who had to go from place to place for various reasons, There was a lot of warfare and a lot of pillage that went on during this time. And so I think that...
A medieval version of a migrant?
In a way. Yeah, in a way.
Or, because you worked in fields, so you had skill enough to be retained by somebody for that.
Or you lived by the fields. I'm not going to rule this out because maybe, depending on the card we get, you might be like Mr. O did last time where he was telling people hacking pharmaceuticals that you might have been hacking agricultural products. You might have been the salesperson. You might have run a market. But let's see what let's do the person card
Please
first.
buy
That's
my
the important
rotten
thing.
artichokes.
Here, you can pick the person this time.
They were all rotting vegetables.
So did you like that reading, Jamie? That was pretty fun.
All right, I'm just picking one.
Yes.
And this is who you were, Kara. A reversed King of Swords.
It's your deck. I told you to pick one you didn't stammer over.
Oh, bite me. What is it, Barb?
My God.
That symbol at the bottom.
Well, it's either a wand or a sword. It looks like a sword to me. It's got a hilt
I think it's a
on it.
sword because the wands were
And it
more
was
distinctive when I
reversed.
saw
Kara,
them. Yeah.
you were really like a
Bad.
rough. I think here you were an air sign. You probably matured. You probably lived a little bit of a longer life. And I think here that you were kind of a mean person. You know, you had a lot of anger. And maybe it was because people stole crops. If you were a farmer. We're going to get into the occupation more in a minute. But I think here that there must have been, or there was a lot of warfare around. And, maybe you had to serve, you had to fight, to preserve the land.
Yeah,
This was
King
feudal
reverse,
times too, right?
What?
Feudal times in the Dark
It could
Ages.
be, right, Dark Ages, right.
I'm thinking this was feudal times.
It could be that, like I said, you were nomadic and you lived in fields, but what if you were, somebody like a crusader who was no longer with their battalion or whatever? What if you were, something like a soldier or a traveler that was what?
Grab the occupation card because I
Which one
think
is that?
soldier may be in there. Occupation's the white. Do I want to throw another card for the person? I might.
Okay, maybe you
Oh,
were a
yes, I
soldier.
do, but we'll get to that. What?
It says artist or artisan.
Well, it's possible that you tended the fields and land for the feudal society. It's possible here you had to manage the land. I almost feel like, that takes sometimes a sort of artisanship about it.
As this is an environment, so you lived in an area where there was a lot of fields and agriculture, but you didn't necessarily work there necessarily.
It's possible you created crafts from the fields.
Right. I mean, maybe you dyed wools and things and created tapestries, or you did paintings or something, but you were probably in a more rural area is what the fields is indicating. So maybe you were like that one person who was, the area's artist, or one of the very few. Oh, hi, Kyle. And we can't take you.
We're going to be way behind with these readings. I'm pulling the top one. You were very smart, though. You were shrewd. And, when I think of the King of Swords, he's a smart, well, even reversed, he's a smart man, but what does he use the brains for? Manipulating people and,
Good point.
So I think you were very wise. You were smart. You were shrewd. Okay, maybe that's the best word to use here. And I want to get another character attribute here.
Maybe you studied art too. I mean,
That could be.
or took lessons from somebody.
Well, being the king, you may have taught, being the King of Swords there, you may have taught others how to do the craft that you were doing. Perhaps, you had people under you that helped you create these things. This is interesting. You had a pioneer sort of spirit about you, which is also why that wanderlust card is there. Maybe that too of maybe you really wanted to branch out and do other things, but that pioneering spirit also falls into your craft. It says you want to do and create something new that nobody has ever done before. And so you really, what this is telling me is that you might have been a master craftsman of some sort with, with what you had available, the tools that you had available.
Leonardo.
All right, let's move on to the theme.
The death. Oh, wait, the theme. The theme is the red one.
Yep. Yes. I'm going to try to get these out simultaneously. What do you got?
Okay, that was work, right? Abundance and penury.
Which is like poverty, penury.
Yes.
So it's either feast or famine for you. People bought your stuff or they didn't, This is interesting that this came up too as a theme. You definitely had a family. You had a family. You were a father. Oh, I hope you weren't too cruel to the children. Because you did have, the King of Swords reversed. You might have been a stern taskmaster with the family.
Well, that would have been likely for the times anyways,
Yeah.
It kind of adds to the idea of living in a paternalistic kind of society too, which would have been the Dark Ages, I suppose, to some degree. I think you could have been maybe isolated enough where you were at that you could be this artist kind of personality, but not necessarily tied to a particular area that maybe you did actually move around a little bit.
I'm just not sensing that anymore. I'm sort of feeling like you were...
I'm looking at the pioneer thing, but I guess pioneer could also be ambition-wise, artistic-wise.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good point.
But,
Starving artist.
I do feel there was that sense that you wished your life was different, like one of our other readings was, where, you did have sort of a wanderlust. Maybe there's a possibility, I don't see it here, if there was any signs of war or some kind of aggression, other than the fact that you have that King of Swords reversed, it's possible here you had to defend the feudal empire. So it's possible you were sent on missions, to other feudal castles to commit some war in between your work. I mean, but I won't rule that out. And we'll see how you died. If it said you died in war, then we know.
That particular portrait you drew, well, it didn't favor Her Majesty, and she said, "Off with your head."
Not sure you drew anything. I think you crafted things. I think you used your hands.
I don't really know for sure. I just thought that.
Oh,
You were the starving artist, and then you killed yourself. You were Rimbaud, or
it's
one of those
possible
poets.
when you were getting older, you were losing some of your ability, your skills. And of course, remember how we talked about sometimes times were good, sometimes times were bad. You were losing business. You were losing maybe people that worked for you because you couldn't pay them. And so you may have committed suicide, Kara. Oh,
We're
I'm
sorry.
So,
What was the takeaway?
whatever could be to take away from a life like that? Let's see. How many more readings do we have?
6.
All right.
Each of you get 5 minutes. No, we're kidding.
Well, this is about ancient wisdom and understanding. And it's Archangel Metatron. Basically... It may be why in this life you might have less ability to find direction. I'm just going to let you browse at some of that. but less. You feel sometimes directionless or not where to apply yourself, and this may stem from this life in a way because of the way everything turned on you. You know, what you had applied your skills to wasn't paying off anymore, and you were lost. And so now in this life, it's hard for you to pick a path, maybe because of fear of failure, you know? And so maybe that's what needs to be worked on here. This is the imprint it may have left on you.
What I get from this is that you, Kara, have possibly lived an incredible amount of past lives, but in most of those past lives, your direction and your goals and your destiny were more clear to you then than this life has been for you. And so this life may be really about you reestablishing whatever that was, the continuity that you had. I don't know why I see that not here, other than the fact that some people feel suicides sort of do something to us karmically that kind of pulls us out of an intended destiny. I don't know if I totally believe that, but I've seen some interesting theories about that. And so maybe the idea is that if this was a past life that maybe derailed your more clear sense of direction or being called real specifically to do things. I'm not saying you're floundering. I'm just saying that somehow in this lifetime, it's not as apparent to you what the other past lives goals were, etc.
So it's going to take extra effort on your part to focus yourself in a direction and stick with it. It may be why you might want to change and shift and do different things because, you know, you're afraid that the one thing is not going to be enough. Wow. Well, good luck with that.
I know.
And it's just one lifetime. We also have to put this in a little bit of perspective here because other lifetimes may have left other marks on us as well. So
right, that's a very good point.
All right. And some of those other marks actually may counterbalance some of the things that we're seeing in this lifetime for people.
You're welcome. I hope it did seem like this one was a little more convoluted in some respects.
Go.
All right.
Who's up?
Who are we on?
Who is up? Yeah.
Well, I pasted
I guess.
But Kara Jebusson. All right.
There, Jebusson. I see it. Okay, hi, Jebusson. All right, Jebusson, you ready?
Well, we still got a ways to go to you, Dex. You're the one after this one, though.
So
you are the next one after this one.
I'm assuming we're going till 9:30 today, and hopefully we'll be done by then.
I hope so, too.
So let's keep going.
Okay, so I don't know if Jefferson had a specific idea. Hey, maybe you want to look for that.
Did you just want to know about a general past life, Jefferson?
Well, I think they didn't realize we were doing past life, so they're interested in past life. So let's go for it. Let's do the past life.
Okay.
We can modify it if we need to, if they show up. But so
all
the
right,
first one is
okay.
Once again the culture you were in, Jefferson. And it says Greece. So that, of course, implies maybe more likely ancient Greece.
I'm thinking yes.
Yeah, that's number 19.
Okay, I will look. But I'm thinking, anyway, yes, unless we get something that looks a little more modern in the...
well, that'll come out in an environment, maybe might show us that.
So let's say for now we know that this past life was situated in Greece. It's just
or in that era.
Of where now and when.
Okay, so you want the environment then?
I do. I don't think I need to draw a tarot card for this one. I'm going to wait for the environment. And sometimes I'm not sure I need it for the environment, so we'll see what it's...
And it's a town.
All right.
There was a town, a small town, not a large city, not like Athens, but maybe a town near another city.
So this is definitely when towns were established.
It's more in the historic era, not the prehistoric era.
Right. So would you say AD then, right?
Not necessarily AD. I'm still thinking it could be within a couple thousand BC because
Okay.
the culture was quite advanced,
Yeah.
Greek and Rome, they built highways and things like that.
What number did you say that was?
I didn't. It's 37 town. But
No, I'm
Greece
sorry.
was 19.
19. That's the one I wanted. I'm sorry. I should have said that. All right, just want to see one thing here. It says the card covers the period from the pre-Socratic philosophers, 600 BCE, to the last of the Neoplatonists. And that would have been, and it talks about the murder of Hypatia, and it ends up with 415 CE.
Okay, so about 1,000 years surrounding zero. 500
So we're
this way,
going
500 that
back.
way.
We're not going back as far as we did with our first reading,
Right.
but we're going back.
But there was a town, and in this life you must have existed there.
That's right. I don't think we need a tarot card for this at all.
Okay. Next.
I think here what we want to do is go
The
to the
court
person.
Alrighty.
So let's see who you were. I want that one. You were the Page of Cups reversed. So, you were definitely young. A young man who was probably a water sign. And you had a lot of dreams. Maybe you let them get you carried away because you just sort of got lost in them. Instead of doing something creative with them, it seemed like you were more of a dreamer than an actual doer. And we'll see how that plays out with the occupation. It's almost as if maybe you can maintain focus on things, or it's possible here that some of what you had to do was not that emotionally exciting for you.
I'm getting a different kind of vibe, and I know that era was still around the era of the Greek and Roman mystery schools where students learned esoteric principles and possibly more. And I'm wondering if the Page of Cups represents you as a student who maybe wasn't totally enamored of that. Maybe you had a patron or somebody who wanted you to go through this, but it wasn't a good fit for you in some ways. You didn't really gravitate towards that sense of that. If it wasn't a mystery school, it may have been some other form of university or college or learning that could have been around at that time. So I think you were a student that wasn't a great student. Sorry.
Well, you felt full. You felt really full of yourself. It was reversed when I pulled it. And so I'm going to look at the shadow elements. It's the Queen card. And it says here, becoming arrogant when authority is challenged. Controlling and demanding person.
This sounds like a student who sort of rankles with their lessons, in my scenario at least.
Well, and I'm wondering here, because it is a Queen card too, if, because remember, it's a page. You could have been a female in this life.
It's variable.
I'm leaning that way. And you just didn't like to be challenged. You just, you had a lot of...
haughtiness.
Yeah, and maybe ego.
You were a haughty student, I think, Chip just said.
Maybe you came from a wealthy family, but we're getting ahead, so I don't want to get too far ahead. Like Mr. O already got you going to mystery school, but let's take a look at occupation.
Dwight.
Yep. Hey, I thought you knew.
I know, that's why I'm just... Where's that bickering button? It's never there when I need it. Oh.
Builder, again.
So
That's
builder.
fine.
Well, that puts a different slant on it. Maybe you only worked at a mystery school or some sort of school, and you were, more of a laborer, and you didn't have... Maybe maybe you wanted to go to school, but you weren't able to. It might have been a class issue because you were more in that class that was apprentice to learning the building skills.
See, that's why I hold off occupation till I get to occupation.
But see, in my scenario, the dream of wanting to be a student is there still.
I
perhaps.
certainly agree. And so you ended up working on buildings in some capacity. I'm getting, if it's true what I'm thinking, that you came from a wealthy family, you probably were somebody who, I'm not going to say you were a master builder per se, but you probably had some authority in the building process. You led a team, whether they were a team of stone layers, or whatever. You kind of led a team.
So that sort of puts them back on the side of being female, because that wouldn't necessarily have worked in that time.
That's true. So I'm almost thinking, okay, then maybe you were a male after all. I kind of think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I got ahead of myself too.
All right, what's next?
Right. Well, I wanted to... I'm not throwing a card for occupation, but what I wanted to do is theme. I'm going to throw the Major Arcana for that, and you need the red theme cards.
Time for the theme.
Betrayal.
Well, this may be harsh, but maybe there was some sense of betrayal here. And of course, it kind of fits into my scenario, because maybe you felt you weren't really going where you wanted to in life and you resented your position, and maybe you felt you were betrayed, or maybe eventually you ended up betraying some other situation, the school or some situation. But here's the Fool, and I'm not sure what I'm saying about that.
Well, I think here that you took some chances and risks in life. That may have something to do with your Page of Cups reverse too. The kind of personality that you were. It's possible here that with the theme, you took some chances and risks because you were bored a lot. You were emotionally kind of looking for something exciting. You always needed something exciting and to stir you emotionally in your life. So you were willing to take some risks and chances. Some of them were good, but on the other hand, it's possible one of them may have angered someone and they betrayed you. They felt betrayed, and you created an enemy. I think you created an enemy or enemies out of something you did and something you took a risky chance on.
Hi, Jebison. Yeah, we're on your reading right now, so if you missed the beginning, you might have to roll back a little bit. So the Fool was qualifying how?
It was just part of the theme. I'm tying it into the theme card.
Right. Well, if you were the one betrayed, it seems like it maybe was unexpected. I'm not sure, though, because the outcome looks better.
Well, they show you stabbed in the back, but I'm just saying you made enemies. So somebody felt betrayed, or maybe you, if you didn't betray them, they betrayed you. You now had an enemy. So... And it could have been something to do with your job. I can't rule that out.
I feel that way, yeah.
But you're also part of a wealthy family, so it could have been something else. So let's look at the demise, sir, as I try to move this along.
Who was that you wanted to ask about?
Oh, dear.
Well, you should have stayed around.
Yeah, you didn't stay. Did you?
We did ask.
Did you post that? Because
we didn't see it.
We didn't see it.
We're sorry.
I have a feeling about this one.
So it shows that your demise in this lifetime was one where it was about starvation.
This is what I feel happened. I do think there was a betrayal. I think somebody put you in a cell or something and ended up starving you to death. I think that was the betrayal. As horrible as that sounds.
Where do you get that from?
from the starvation card and the betrayal in the theme. I decided they fit together somehow. You can go with it whichever way you want.
Okay, I'm not sure what we can do with that, but we'll think about it.
Jemison, these are really, really long readings
Yeah.
today. So unfortunately, we can't redo this.
They did
Sorry.
say no problem, so if you were reading the chat, you would see that.
Okay.
Okay. Well, you were pointing at the builder card, but talking about the betrayal card. So maybe you were just confused there.
Are you going to add anything?
I can't really at the moment.
Okay. Well, that's what we have there. I do believe it's related to the betrayal. I was waiting to see what the final card was. Obviously, if it was a catastrophe or a flood or drowning, it wouldn't have been part of the betrayal. It would have been an accident.
Well, I hate to be melodramatic, but if you were a builder, maybe you were imprisoned in something you built as that betrayal. Like,
Wow.
I mean, that's like, it sounds like the Count of Monte Cristo or something like that. So,
Doesn't sound like a happy ending, but hey, times were difficult. This town maybe had some issues. All right, what do we got? Another archangel. Oh my gosh. Okay, so how is this impacting on your life today? It's interesting because we spoke about a betrayal, a possible imprisonment where you were starved to death, and this is about justice and discipline, this card.
number 23.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
Raphael actually looks like Jesus in the picture a little
it
bit.
says here that in your past life, and this so fits with this one, that you were treated unjustly, that you were not treated fairly, and so that's what happened. And I think here what it's saying is that in this life, maybe you're compensating for this by trying to keep more order and discipline and, in your life, and ensuring that, too, that you get fair treatment in this life.
You're gravitating towards situations where you feel you truly understand the harmony between you and other people in working relationships. And probably when you sense, something's not exactly kosher, you may be trying to remove yourself from those or trying to see what you can do to offset that.
And I like this in this situation, too, because what it's saying is, in the past where you could not harmonize with this person, you couldn't come to agreements. In this life, you really want peace and you want to be fair to others and others to treat you fairly as well. So that's what we got out of this life for you. And I'm sorry, you had to miss it. And that we did that. Maybe next time, if nobody's here, we should wait to the end, and if they don't show,
Well, this is a good learning experience for us, and I think, we'll be able to refine this and maybe come up with a better format.
Well, we have to come up with rules, too, and say, you're really going to have to be here when you're called, or we'll have to pass you over, and sorry about that, but... Or you got to leave kind of what you really want out of the reading. It's either a general or a love, and we'll look for that and let you know.
Let's try to move on then.
All right. To who?
I'll have to look at the list, won't I? And it's Dex. Dex, are you still around? You said a general past life reading because you said you might be in the bathroom, which I understood. You're welcome, Jefferson.
Let's go.
I know, I just want to paste the list in like you like to do.
I'm sorry.
Of course.
Yeah, I'm picking on him, and he's got to do my work. I feel bad. I have no good keyboard.
No, you don't.
I do.
I don't think
I want my keyboard.
People in hell want ice water. I'm just saying.
I shook the camera on that one.
Well, I'm going to shake a lot more than that.
Whoa. Well, are you going to give us a card, Mr. O?
All right, Dex. It is the general past life reading. And thank you for coming again. I'm glad you made it in. All right, so this represents the culture, which may be the approximate era or somewhat the era that you lived in. And it is Rome.
Wow. Going from Greece to Rome
From Greece to Rome. And of course, Roman Empire lasted a little further, but not much, from the overall Greek one. So that gives us an idea of the time.
Well, I think, we'll see too at the next cards, because Rome is in the modern era as well.
True.
So I think what we want to do here is the environment card.
And that was green.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Oh, what is it with those dang fields?
I think I'm going to have to pick the next one.
I think so.
So it's fields again? That's
So
the
you're in
third
the
time.
fields again.
Well, there's only so many different kinds of environments that
That
are there.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not going to look up the time frame yet. I think here you work the fields.
We've just pulled 2 card decks since you've come back.
Okay, so let's talk about this. You are in Rome. We're just not sure yet how ancient of Rome. And maybe I do need to pull up, see if I can get a beat on that here. And then the other thing is you were in an area that was more field-like, which could be
agricultural.
But that does not mean that you yourself were doing
Exactly. You just might have
agriculture.
lived more in the countryside where
Yeah.
farming and stuff occurred.
Okay. Vast vistas, huh? Anyway, I just want to take a look at this because I think this one might tell me something. No, it does not. It does not.
All right.
So, I'm going to have to see if we can find another deck we can use for time frames. I feel here that this could be not really super ancient Rome. I just feel that it is more...
It's not very modern, but it's not very ancient. Like maybe it's 1500s up, or do you think it's more...
It could be 1500s up. I want to see what we get with... Well, let's get the person first, because the person's got to happen, and you've got those.
All right. So this looks like the person you could have been. And it's the upright Queen of Cups. So the upright Queen of Cups suggests that maybe you were a mature woman who very much was involved in the emotionality of your life. It wasn't that you were overly emotional or anything like that, but it could have been that you had a lot of love in your life. Maybe you had children, grandchildren, maybe you had nieces and nephews, and maybe you were really involved in something that sort of showed off those good nurturing tendencies. This doesn't necessarily apply to children. It could be that you were really vibrant in a particular social way too, of some sort.
The Queen of Swords?
Cups.
Oh, the Queen of Cups, a very loving, motherly type. But I also feel that could mean a benefactor of some sort. Maybe somebody who really cared about people. Maybe somebody who did some... I want to say midwifery, but I'm not going to go there because I really feel with this card you might have been more royalty. You might have had some royalty about you. I didn't even want to say royalty, some wealth about you.
Okay.
And trying to get the card. Oh my gosh, maybe you were royalty. I can't believe you got 2 queen cards. Yes. I think you had some prominent position in, this farming or rural community. You radiate femininity. You use your benevolent authority to protect others.
Well, when was the last time that there were ruling women types in Rome? It probably could be more ancient than now that we think about
right.
that.
I just think this is somebody who either was an heiress, you inherited
Aristocracy, yeah.
wealth from a family. I think that's what's going on here. You might have been a landowner, and you had people working the fields for you. I believe you were a mother. I think that was pretty clear too.
And it says something about protective qualities, so it could be that, you were really proud of this role, and or that there was a reason why you had to be that protector. Maybe you were protecting the future heir or a future important, person in the Roman era.
Okay, so the occupation.
And that's
Which-
white.
So maybe that'll say something. Or give me an idea.
Uh-oh. That goes totally against what we pulled.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I'm looking at this a little bit differently because of your
The
stature.
occupation says beggar.
I'm looking at this a little differently because of your stature. I feel, remember how we said you were a benevolent person? I feel you are protective of people who were underprivileged in your rural society. You tried to help them, give them food, maybe some shelter, whatever the case may be.
Well, I'm thinking, of course, that there were specific deities in the Roman and Greek era where it was common for certain people to leave food offerings in places for the poor to come to as an act of benevolence or devotion to that particular deity. And so I'm not suggesting that's exactly what you were, but it could have been a continuation of that tradition, that your role in society may have given you license to be a benefactress to the needy.
It's pretty interesting.
It is interesting.
So let's go on with the theme, which I'll have to draw a major arcana, and you draw one of the red cards. That's interesting.
Love indifference. Well, it is interesting. Does it mean, that, part of this need to help others was because
You were lacking love?
you were unhappy in love, or you didn't feel you could give more to love, or someone else felt you didn't give enough love to them, or some combination of those things. And of course, the star reverse tells its own little tale, that there was a sense of maybe your own personal neediness too, and that maybe you wanted to enliven yourself by being, a compassionate advocate for the poor.
See, these cards will take me into directions sometimes. And so I'm going to say what I said in a previous reading for someone else, that I feel your spouse may have died early. And so you were kind of left indifferent and without a little bit with that love in your life. But he left you a lot of wealth and you had children. And so you devoted yourself giving your love to the poor, the people who had nothing.
And so then the reverse destiny card,
That's what I'm looking at.
is that idea
Yes.
that,
Downtrodden.
downtrodden, but trying to uplift the others, from your own personal sense of loss.
This is what I'm saying too, that's why she helped the downtrodden.
That is
I know I pointed at the wrong card, but I meant that card.
so bittersweet, beautiful.
It is. I'm afraid to look at how you demised.
But we will.
But we will.
This one's actually bringing a tear to my eye.
Okay, well, we all
It
die
could
from
be.
something.
It says disease.
So clearly, you became ill, you've got some sort of disease. I really do feel this was more modern era. in that it was 1500s up, not something that's really ancient.
Ancient, right.
So, you might have to do some research.
I know, Dex.
On the Roman era. I can't.
You have to.
Oh, TV script. Yeah. That's what I love about these readings, because whether you believe in past lives or not, there may be something that clicks with you here. But not only that, it's great storytelling at times.
Well, there are other kinds of diseases too, and itself even in a world 500 years ago, cancer was a disease of immense proportions. It may not happen as much, I don't really know for sure, but even something like that, being an older person succumbing to cancer would have been, quite horrific and disease,
Well, it could have been anything. My personal feeling here is, though, that you probably lived a pretty decent lifespan, to have the wealth that you had and to help people. But then again, I can't rule out the fact that it could have taken you a little early, which might have left some of your children as orphans if your spouse has died like I thought they might have. It's possible, because when you're dealing with poor people and helping the poor, you might have run into diseases from the work that you did.
Right, and so this does place it a little further back to maybe 1500, because the whole understanding of pathogens and diseases didn't really develop until the 1800s actually. So people just didn't necessarily believe that some things caused disease, and maybe, it was a mistake that this happened.
How interesting that I get this card. This is not about who you were. This is about what you take into this life now. It's the Shaman Healing card, number 12. And so, of course, when you died of a disease, that may have had an imprint for you to deal with more healing kind of energy in this life.
Right. You were the kind of person that tried so much to help and heal others, and yet you weren't able to necessarily heal yourself.
So, it speaks in this book about the fact that maybe you engaged in healing modalities in this previous life, and possibly by your tending to the poor and the downtrodden, you tried to heal them in your own way. You might have bandaged people up, you might have, done different little things, and it's imprinted on your life today, that you might have some healing energy within that if you haven't been using it, maybe this is a hidden attribute that you should be looking at now. But it, of course, says focus on healing yourself. And maybe that also is the takeaway here, because, with disease, dying from disease in a past life, you probably want to, maybe that's imprinted on you that you've got to watch how you care for your body.
I love it.
Interesting reading. Nice one. All right, let's move on.
Right.
We're at the 9
so
o'clock
we're
hour.
on Ladybug.
Ladybug love.
Hey, Ladybug.
Hey.
And I'm going to scroll to see if they gave us other ideas. There you are. Did you have something more specific? I don't remember if you wrote it there.
I don't remember if you wanted love or not, Ladybug.
Like if you're interested in a particular friend or relationship now, and whether they were with you in another life or just general. Thank you, Dex. That's really nice. Thank you. We really get off on this too, I'll be honest.
Even though we haven't done it in forever.
All right, we can do a general for you then.
Yes.
Absolutely.
We like that at this point in the show.
Yeah, it helps us to maybe move through this. So we definitely have some ideas on maybe how we're going to do this in the future when we do it.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to do some of these cards a little bit differently. I got it figured out. There's one deck you haven't seen because it hasn't come up. And we'll just see how that goes.
All right. So what was the culture and possible time era?
Let me pick it.
Yes, I think you should.
I should pick the environment too, though. That's a problem.
Yeah, I think you should.
Let's see. I got two.
I knew it.
But I'm going with the one that I saw because that's the one I think is important.
Okay.
It's Central Asia, Tibet. This time it's Tibetan area. Ooh, I have a resonance to Asia. I'm not sure I've really explored what part of Asia, but aside from Ireland, I know I've had a past life in Asia. So Central Asia, Tibet. What number is that, Mr. O?
It's number 27. Number 9? It breaks down to 9.
Oh, that's my number. Ah. All right, this is in proto-historic times. Oh, wait, no, not necessarily. Okay. Early Tibetans were rather warlike, so it does say that. So if it was early Tibetans, not sure about the time frame. They're talking about all kinds of things here. From Attila the Hun, of course. Genghis Khan. I'm going to leave the time frame open a little bit.
Okay. So then we're going to go to the environment, right?
Yes.
And you wanted to pull this one too.
I definitely did.
Cool.
And I'm just going to see if I do get a time frame from these.
Remember, we don't want
cards.
fields. There you go again.
This is the one. It's in my hand. That flew out. This is interesting because it's mountainous, right, Tibet?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Guess what came out with it, though?
Fields.
But I know that's the card. I knew that was the card that I pulled. Face up, facing me.
So, mountainous area of Central Asia and Tibet. Ooh, is it
How
tied to the people card?
interesting.
What are you doing there?
Oh, go ahead. The person card. Why is my computer constantly shutting off? I know why. Because I'm here. Yeah, the person card is next.
Ladybug. Reversed King of Cups. So the reverse King of Cups could be a person who's kind of like really grumpy, really adverse. Their clouds are always dark. They don't know how to be kind to people. They may have a natural reaction to be possibly mean to people. So karmically, this could represent somebody who really feels that life just doesn't work for them and they're kind of bitter.
I would have to look up the era, but I decided to use this other deck to do a time frame, and it could be around the time period, like in China, of Lao Tzu. So that time frame, whatever it is when Lao Tzu was around, you were in Tibet and doing what you're doing. I think so. We are going back a ways in time.
Is Lao Tzu the philosopher person that wrote the Book of War thing?
Yeah. How ironic, huh? And then you've got that. And so what I'm wondering here, because I spoke already about, Tibet having a lot of warfare that had gone on, that maybe that's part of the reason why your heart was a little bit harder, okay? Just to survive in this kind of world.
Right. A life of, lots of martial ambitions around you.
Okay. So now we've got that. So let's go to... okay, we got the environment, right? That's that. The person is that. Oh, there's something more I need to say. You were probably a water sign, and it is a king, so you could have lived to some level of maturity, depending on what we find out about the demise. But hey, even if it says it was in warfare, some older people, leaders got on the horses and got killed along with the troops. All right. So go to the go to the occupation. Occupation. Yes. Yes. Well, maybe we'll be going to 10 o'clock. 3 hours. Mr. O is going to be angry.
Welcome to the Oberon Show. We don't know what happened to Banshee.
But We'll look up the demise in these cards.
But I am a Scorpio. Wink, wink.
Well, maybe you were hard-hearted because you had to have some armor around your heart to work in law.
Law. All right.
So you meted out justice in some form. Were you some kind of enforcer in the community? Were you a warrior again? Was it under military rule? This place that you were? Or were you actually somebody that people brought people in front of to send to prison or their execution?
I think you were involved with courts that maybe were dealing with people who were being caught up by the various pogroms or things that were going on in this era, and that maybe this led you to this sense of bitterness because you realized this was just a way to disappear people, kind of like what we think is happening these days, but that maybe there was just something you felt was extremely unfair, unjust.
I usually do one of the archetype cards for the person, and I didn't. But I want to do this for the profession and see. Oh, okay. Well, this is the priest card, but it's not saying you're a priest, but you had some of these attributes. I really feel that you felt, even though, you had a bit of a hard heart and were pretty strict with meting out the justice, that you thought you were fair. You thought you were fair and you were doing the righteous thing, based on either religious or traditional principles of the place that you lived.
And yet still, because I agree with it, I sort of feel like you are, like, to me, this is kind of like the Hierophant in a way in the tarot, the sort of sense of order in a society.
Yes.
And yet maybe to some degree over the course of a longer life, because you were a king, an older person, you realize the bitterness of that, the sheer fruitlessness of what you were doing.
So as far as your personality, going back to you as a person, which is really interesting, it was upside down, I turned it. Well, I do believe you were a male in this life, regardless of the fact that it's the mother card. It was reversed. And so it said about smothering or abandonment. You may have abandoned your family.
Well, I wonder, if this could say that the lives that you underwent maybe hardened you in certain ways. Maybe this is why you abandoned them, or maybe some other circumstance separated you guys and you never really looked back towards their welfare. So I do sort of feel like you were really kind of a harsher kind of personality based on the circumstances of your life.
Well, the King of Cups is not a very mothering kind of nature, too. So, and that card was reversed. So I think if you didn't abandon them, it was probably you lived for your work and you really didn't spend a lot of time with the family.
Or you were obliged because maybe you were, controlled by whoever was in power.
The theme, the cross. Interesting cards. All right.
Creativity, destructiveness. So there is sort of a sense of a range here, like a spectrum or a range.
I'm sure as a judge or as somebody who had enforced rules, you maybe had to come up with creative ways to bring people together. People were fighting with each other, disputes, land disputes, etc. And it's also here possible, too, that a lot of what you did was kind of destructive in that maybe you sent people to their executions and things of that nature.
Did you possibly deal with homeless children who were the result of families where parents were killed in wartime or in other ways, and maybe you had to make judgments about how children were, remanded or how they were dealt with? So here's the Chariot.
I'm throwing that with the theme card, too, because I feel like you were a very You moved fast. You made swift decisions. You didn't mess around, with what you were doing here. And that's also in your life. You made swift decisions about everything, your marriage, how things were going to go, whether you abandoned your family, all of these different things. They were really fast, and you were determined to go on the path that you set for yourself.
I think that first card of your personality, the Reverse King, shows you towards the end of your life, and that these other cards sort of say these challenges and these ways you kind of put yourself to your tasks wore on you over time, and that maybe over the course of a lifetime you really did change some of your ideas that maybe were better positions of the past, and you became more bitter about it. But I do sort of feel there was this sense of a motivation to really swiftly handle, and that kind of goes with justice. Societies always want justice to be swift and sometimes brutal.
Demise.
How'd you die? How'd you die, dear? And again,
okay,
disease.
So you didn't get killed. You didn't get smited by anybody. You didn't die in war. You didn't die in a disaster or flood. You died naturally, not naturally, but of some disease that took you out. So again, I feel that means to me you lived a mature life. You lived probably a good lifespan for that time period.
In the modern era, of course, China and some of the Asian countries do have a proliferation of flus or diseases that are pretty fatal if they transmit from animals to humans. And so it could have been possible that maybe some of these conditions were in the past too, because of course there were less, sterile, hygienic conditions with a lot of things in those kind of lives.
You may think this backs up something you said, but I don't believe it does. I think it backs up the theme where I was going with it all. But the takeaway for this life is caretaker. And I feel you've gotten that card because what did we say about you in this life? You abandoned your family. You were so into your work. You were meting out justice, and retribution. You had a cold heart.
Yeah, I get it.
So, in other words, in this life, you're focused on more care and concern for others.
There may be some sort of sense of a unique relationship where maybe your lifetimes vacillate. One time, you're kind of an SOB. The next time, you're Mother Teresa. And so it goes. And maybe there are little nuances of those experiences that karma wants you to learn. It's not just that karma wants you to be a bad nurse once in a while and then sometimes a good nurse. It may be that there's something else in there. And so this cycle may repeat until you figure out how to bring that balance there.
I kind of feel, too, that in this life, you might be trying to make amends for this past, but the one thing you got to be careful of is not to let others take advantage of you. You will need to set boundaries. Some people really, if you give them a little bit, they want more. In other words, you don't want to make them codependent on you. That may make you feel powerful and better, like you're doing good, but in a sense, you're holding them back. So you have to find that happy medium in this life between how you care for others and how you put yourself first. That's what we have for you. Good luck with that.
All right.
Next.
And I have updated the list. We're in our last three.
We're in our last three? That's awesome.
Victorious.
Hey, we made it to
Vicky
you.
Moon.
Thanks for staying.
I hope it was worth your while, guys. There's that one.
Hey, we're having fun.
We
Mr.
are.
O is getting off into the storytelling, I can tell.
You're welcome. If you feel comfortable, I don't mind, some feedback. I realize that nobody can really verify any of this, but if you felt any kind of sense of, like there could have been something there, you can always just write us later or tell us later too.
Okay, so did you want a general one of Victorious Moon? I can't remember.
Yeah, I thought you might have asked a question. Let me see. If not, if you could repeat it.
Yeah, I'm sorry I'm having so many computer problems, but at least I'll have another cheap Wi-Fi keyboard to try to get me through. Hopefully tomorrow.
Okay, just a past life. Very
Okay.
good.
Let's start with the
I know what.
culture. I'm going to shuffle these time frame cards and see if I get something. This time at least I did. All right.
It fell, but not to the floor, but I want it. And it's that one again.
Oh, okay. India.
Yeah. I sort of felt when it fell that that was the one I should take.
India or Southeast Asia. So
India or Southeast Asia.
That realm. Let's see what I get here.
So not like, Tibet or...
Right, not
that
that
area.
part of Asia. Huh. Well, I don't think that's going to be it, but maybe.
Is that the Taj Mahal?
It's actually Atlantis, which is not part of India. But I'm looking at the time frame here. When did they think Atlantis was? Okay.
Many thousands of years ago.
350 BC?
Well, that's awfully...
That's Plato's era.
Yeah, I think it was supposed to be far older than that.
Okay, so far older than that. So around when they think Atlantis was around. So this is going way back. And as a matter of fact, wasn't our other reading in that region pretty old?
Yes, there was another reading. I don't
Yeah.
remember what we did time-wise.
Well, let's see what else we come up with here. So let's take a look at the
All right,
environment.
good luck.
Mr. O?
What's that?
The environment.
The environment.
Okay, well, if you miss any of it, you can always watch the recording. So far we think you go way back here in India.
And the environment is fields.
I let him pull it again. Sheesh.
Everybody's in the fields. I think many of us have many past lives, quite frankly.
Yeah. I mean, maybe, maybe some less than others.
Maybe
and
some less.
I also feel, does the past life have to be on this planet? Maybe.
That too.
Maybe not.
So whenever this time period was, it was probably, once again, more of a rural, agricultural kind of setting. And, when you think about it, when you're going way back, we were mostly nomadic peoples. We weren't necessarily living in communities that were permanent or semi-permanent. So to some degree, this could make sense that it was pretty much a rural kind of community. Person?
Yes. And I'm going to grab this right now. So it'll be on target.
A Blu-ray. Oh, I should know what that is. I know there's an indigo ray too, right? Alrighty.
Maybe I will take those environment cards.
And
next.
once again, you're the reversed King of Swords.
Oh, that's tough.
So you may have been a person who lived to some sense of that older age, or at least middle age.
But King of Swords is not a good person. I could almost envision, I don't know the situation in India. They had a caste system, but of course that's in more modern than I think.
Right, this could be
era.
even a more remote era.
But I wonder if there were either people that were prisoners of war or some sort of slavery that went on at this time. I feel here that you might have had people in servitude working for you, the land. Because the king is tough. I mean, the only other thing I can think of here is, he was a brutal defender of his land. It's possible here, too, that maybe he pillaged land from other people.
Well, there's definitely a sense maybe that there's there's something going on with land ownership or land, running, and maybe it's sort of a feudalistic period, even if they wouldn't call that for India, but the sort of sense that, there's somebody who owns the land, but then they have persons who deal with the workers of the land. The other idea too would be that, this King of Swords could be a soldier kind of personality too.
Right. And I'm thinking here that the only other thing I can think of here is that it is possible too that we're pretty harsh on the King of Swords sometimes, but there is a possibility too that he is just somebody who did not make really good, wise decisions in his life. And it's possible some of those decisions led him to some criminal or not, upright activity. And so...
That's interesting, Victorious. A lot of times the way I view karma and reincarnation is that our lives go back and forth between real opposite poles. Sometimes we're a horrible person, and then sometimes we're a really great person, and we just flip back and forth because our souls are trying to learn certain things. What do you got?
Well, I feel here that you had a desire to seek the truth out. Maybe there was some factions, between the landowners, and I want to look up detective in here because it gives me just a little more info. You could have been a spy snooping around and seeking out information. And you could also, and you were very observant. I feel here you were watching what others were doing to try to gain some sort of tactical advantage. Because that King of Swords, he's pretty slick that way when he's reversed.
It implies to that too. I still get the sense that, there's either something grumbly or something a little bit mean-spirited on some level with that personality there.
As far as this goes, it's a storyteller. I feel here that you may have been trying to manipulate people through some kind of, stories or exaggerated things that you would tell them. You're trying to control, their actions, reactions in some way.
That's interesting because I don't know what the word is, but it's sort of like, well, okay, so they're a spy detective, but they're sort of doing disinformation through storytelling.
And it's so like a detective. They try to get people to admit to a crime by, embellishing some of the information they claimed they had on, the other person. So in a sense, you kind of were like that. Spies would do that too.
You were a sneaky dude.
You were a little bit deceptive in this life. I hate to say it. All right, let's move on.
Is it the occupation?
It's the occupation.
Trader.
Trader?
Yes.
Interesting. Well, we talked about snake oil salesman earlier, but I think...
But that was your cover, I guess, to be a spy.
Well, the thing is, if you were a trader, you're always trying to outsell, the competition, whatever competition there may have been in those days. If you were, part of a rural community selling things, you may be looking at your neighbors or whatever and trying to undermine what they're doing.
Well, the thing is that as a trader, you circulate a lot. You go to towns or areas.
That is true.
And you commiserate, and maybe you sell the disinformation. Maybe you sort of manipulate or massage opinions.
This is true. I like what
and that sounds like a King of Justice reverse, because there's sort of the sense of unfairness going on there, or you were a sneaky dude.
Well, here's the deal. You were one of those people who is not tied to where you lived. In other words, you go back there, of course, but you were trading, so you moved around and traveled. And so, you used your manipulative skills in order to be successful at what you do.
What you said about being told you might have been a Knight Templar, this is sort of a similar kind of personality in a way, because they just sort of roamed around Europe, moving between these situations, and maybe, they had these opportunities to do these kind of things too, or maybe this is something that moves you towards that idea of being a Knight Templar in another life.
Well, sometimes we don't know why we're sent to the other lives that we're sent to. I mean, obviously, we just know that's something that we need to experience, perhaps, or learn from. I don't know, but this is one of these interesting readings. So, are we on the person? Did we skip the person? We got the person. I'm being silly. Oh, we're on the theme. Yes. Theme. Sorry. I'm getting lost in this reading. It's interesting, too, in its own way. Feast or famine.
So the theme is feast or famine, and maybe that explains motivationally why you may have been drawn to do some of those things if you were, manipulating opinion or being a con artist of sorts or a detective spy. It might have been because you really were just living by your wits, and so whatever happened in the overall environment may have affected how well you did. When times were good, people were willing to give you money for information or whatever you were trading, but maybe times weren't always good.
You were shifty, all right, in a interesting way.
Oh, it's death.
Well,
Great change artist.
That's it. That's it. I think you were like a little chameleon here. Remember, you got the spying, the way you could manipulate people. I think you could change into whatever you needed to change into in order to be successful at what you were trying to trade.
So they run you out of one town and you reinvent yourself for the next town.
You were a car salesman. No.
You were a
used car salesman.
A used horse salesperson.
This is fun. So it's interesting to me so far, but let's see how they
dispatched you?
Demised, yes.
Well, it certainly is a little bit entertaining, even if you couldn't imagine yourself being this kind of personality.
Hey, I'm sure we, have done things we are not proud of in past lives. And some of it might be even what we had to do, clean out your toilets or the horses' stables.
It looks like you went to a possible watery grave, like somebody else earlier in the show did.
So it's through water, which is a little bit broader. You could have drowned off a boat.
Right, if you were a trader, maybe.
Yes, that really makes a lot of resonance to me. More so than flood. There was a separate card for flood, right?
A ship that sunk.
So I kind of feel here that, it could have been a ship that sank. Was that a king? That was the king again.
Yeah.
So I still feel you might have lived to some level of maturity here, but unfortunately you had a water death. And so...
somebody drawn you in the bathtub.
Thus ended your exploits and adventures as a trader.
But what was the takeaway?
So what is the takeaway? Let's see.
What was karma's message ultimately for you, or kind of an idea that maybe you would think about for another life?
So far, a lot of these have resonated with what we've pulled.
Well, they certainly resonate to me, but that's because I don't really know what your lives are like, so I can believe anything I come up with.
Well, I just meant they resonated to the reading.
Kara's still with us. Yay!
Are you enjoying this, Kara? No Vikings so far. And I'm pretty sure there is a card in there for that. Well, may not resonate. It's the shaman again. But you talked about it's the shaman, so it's about healing. But maybe this is more about, healing more mentally and emotionally and personality in this life.
Well, the other thing too was that, I said sometimes lives have opposite messages or goals. Like maybe you're contributing to people's, not helpful things, but then in the next life you are trying to be more of an advocate. Though actually to me, there's a sense of this being more personal, that the idea of healing that you get from either this life or post-life, integrating those things, is maybe the idea that there were things about yourself you needed to heal. You realize, like, yeah, I was a little bit of a shyster there, so maybe this next life I should try to be nicer to people.
And it is possible here that you might have sold some, healing type things. We spoke about the snake oil salesman before, or, even if you were doing agricultural kinds of trade, that, some of this stuff ended up, maybe not being more harmful, which is why you are more into healing and healthy thoughts and healthy food today. I personally feel that this is dealing more with healing of, your mind and your heart, so that you are more honest in this life, that you are more authentic in this life than you were in that life. I think, the shaman, it's not so much about healing others, it's about healing yourself.
Right, I get that totally, and I feel like what you said there, maybe you have to understand too that really this shaman energy could be something that has come through a few lives and is about you working on your own personal healing, Vicki.
Hey Russ, I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Hi Russ. I'm not going to touch that one with
hey,
whatever pole.
We've had to tell people some bad stuff, a few today, but in some of our other past life readings, things have come up. So, interesting. But that's what we have for you.
So that's what we have, Vicki, victorious.
Good luck with that.
Thank you so much for coming. Fun.
And who we on next? We got two more? Oh my God.
We have two more, so...
We're going to do ya.
I think one of these is, of course, Beetlejuice, who did put down their question.
I hope you're... Okay, what did they want?
I have to find it.
There it is.
Was I a worrier?
Oh.
Not
fight
like
or
me.
Flight. Well, let's see what we come up with. Let's see.
We're more likely to come up with what you had to worry about.
Maybe. All right. Nobody was an alien today. What happened? We have an alien card in that deck, so I'm just waiting for it.
Okay. Let's see what the culture was for Beetlejuice. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate your friend telling you so you could join. As you can possibly tell if you look around our YouTube site, we have a lot of readings during the week. We have different focuses. Banshee does something that's more related to financial things.
Yeah, that's my Sunday show, and it's a video, but we're live in the chat for that show. So I talk about the readings with people or just chat and drink coffee.
She's one of our big supporters too, Beetlejuice, so I'm glad she brought you over too. Jamie's. All right, so what was the culture and possible era or time of a past life? Ooh.
That's different. Oh. Number 30. I'm going to look and see what they got there.
Indigenous tribal. So that could be way back or not so way back because, there are still indigenous tribal peoples in the world today.
Yes. That's a good point. And it doesn't really tell us where. They're talking about 30,000 years ago, tribal shamans in Neolithic caves.
And that's way before recorded history, or at least as far as I know.
But they also talk about them being torn away from, forced out of their communities, destroyed by civilized white Europeans, or whatever.
So
we
you're
talk
saying
about
this
the
could-
Mayan, the Native American. So it's going to be a little bit tough pinning down a location for this. But we do know that the culture was tribal. I don't think the tarot's going to help me with this, but I want to pull a card suddenly and see what I get. And definitely get the environment ready to go. I'm going to keep it moving. But, ooh. Maybe you were doing some healing work. I have a feeling this is a little bit older.
Temperance.
It could still be around the time of the white man, but I mean, you know, and the different clashes of cultures. But,
Maybe not, though. I don't know.
oh, forest. Well,
It's a forest environment, so of course, from an indigenous point of view, it could be a number of places around the world.
this so ties, though, into, I'm sensing it could be here. I'm sensing
In the
it could be
Americas?
here, North America, or South or Central America.
Yeah, it's one of the Americas, I
I
think.
think it is. And just a feeling, you know, I got to go with my feelings too when we do some of this. And I think the foresty areas, well, that's so perfect for Native Americans. They were or tribal people. They're into the land, the love of the land. They lived off the land. They understood the land. They had paths and trails. They knew how to navigate.
Well, certainly in South America, there still is so much forest land. Of course, we're
Right.
cutting it up as quick as we can, but between North and South America, there was an incredible amount of forest land before colonization started.
Really not sure it's South America.
I'm
And you
not
know,
either.
there might be a card in here for Central America.
Oh, you live in one now? That's wonderful.
I'm almost beginning to think it's
Help me get there.
I'm almost beginning to think it's North America. I do, because I think we have cards for Central and South America.
Okay.
So
It makes sense. It could,
it
or
could be Canada.
All right, what's next?
All right, that would be the person,
The person.
which means back to these.
Who were you? And of course, this was a past life, so of course, maybe this is recurrent in your lives that you are connected to forest life and or indigenous cultures.
Maybe that's, of course, this life imprinted that on you. It's possible. And you know, that's not to say you didn't have other lives in a foresty
Right, of course.
environment either.
So it's the reversed Knight of Cups. And as
That's
a person, you might be in middle ages here, or, you know, early to middle ages. You know, you might be a youngish person, but not necessarily like a teenager, though when you adjust for times, you know, a person at 18 was possibly considered quite adult, depending on the culture. So I'm not sure about that. Let's just say from our viewpoint, you know, you might have been 20 to 35, somewhere in that range. That's a big range, actually. But the qualities sound like water sign. Maybe you were, you know, Cancer, Pisces, Scorpio. Maybe. Doesn't necessarily mean that. But as a Knight of Cups reversed, the key quality here could be that you're a person that doesn't seem to gravitate easily towards love relationships, that maybe relationships didn't always work out or end up being a strong part of your life.
No.
And of course, maybe that's because you were in love with the forest. You know?
Well, I think it's interesting. I think that I don't know if I see marriage here, at least yet. It may come up. I mean, it may come up that you have children or something, that mother card.
But we're reading the past life, Beetlejuice. I'm a Scorpio too, by the way. Sorry.
Okay, can I go?
I don't know, can you?
I'm not seeing marriage or anything like that. I'm seeing more work-oriented kind of thing. You know, you have the Scholar card, and it ties right nicely into this card here in my mind. Now, according to this, it's a guide card, but it says, represents the nature of the divine in life and in yourself. And maybe the nature of the divine in nature, the forest. I feel here Native Americans, I believe, and some of the different tribes, they had guides, right? They had guides who could navigate through the forests and knew. And I feel you studied that. You studied that and you did that. You would lead people on hunts or, other things. You would guide people. This is part of what you did.
Right. I don't know if there's a specific name for it in these various cultures, but there are people who maybe are helpers of different sorts, and this seems to be that kind of personality, somebody who's charged with the knowledge of what is around the land, the ways in and out of a community, maybe, where the good fishing is, that kind of stuff.
Could you have been a shaman or a priest? Maybe. Let's pull the occupation card and see. Can I try to pull one this time?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm so happy you pulled a forest instead of the plains or the fields or whatever.
I know, I was getting sick of those damn fields.
Well,
Where are the goddess worshippers?
I definitely
have
have
two.
Are you kidding? I'm putting them back this time. I didn't even see them.
I don't know why you can't be careful.
I'm just going to pull one on the top.
Okay. Oh, there you are again.
So in a sense,
Traitor.
I feel that you had to know your way around. You were a trader between tribes. And so you probably also guided other people. I think you were doing a little bit of both here. And also with your trade, you were maybe perhaps even... maybe those skills proved useful there.
I've heard of people in some cultures, not necessarily indigenous, who maybe live in the forest, but then they're contacted by people in different communities who maybe have a task for them. Maybe they are charged with taking this person to another part of a community, something like that. So maybe you were somebody that, helped assist people with travel or with certain dispositions. Maybe you helped. We said that to somebody else, like maybe you help people learn about the ways of the land or about growth.
I have to say, I can't help but wonder if this does not coincide with the era of the white men coming to, North America. Because there was definitely a lot of native and trade going on.
You could have been the person who maybe was the person of a relay, like maybe because you were able to speak their lingo or you had learned it, you could be an emissary between peoples, something like that. That's interesting. Well, this idea, though, about not really being able to be in a loving relationship kind of bothers me a little bit, other than the fact that maybe you just loved what you did that much.
I just feel you were very active and you moved around a lot. So did that leave you time for family? It may not have in this case.
Some people are loners in their lives. They don't have those deep connections, but they have occasional connections throughout their life. So,
but let's see what comes up with the theme.
Indeed.
I'm going to grab one this time. Hold on. I know it's one. Oh. This seems odd for a guide.
Yeah, I guess you are, eh? Wow, do you see what she's saying there?
No.
Well, don't be angry at me. I mean, I think what they were saying was everything we were describing about their past life sort of fits them now.
Okay. Well, I didn't say much about the person. I didn't say much about what was that.
But it was about the circumstances.
Can I go back a little bit? To the person card, what was the tarot card?
Well, it was the King, the Knight of Cups, and I had said you might have been a water sign. They said they were a Scorpio.
I hadn't spoken on that because I was pulling these cards and thinking about them. So I just want to add with the Knight of Cups that, this is a very youthful card. So I'm going to be curious to see when your demise or how it happened. Because you may have died younger, which might be why you did not have a family.
But like I mentioned during the time, and maybe you didn't hear that, was that during those more remote times, being between between 20 and 35, which is a traditional age for a knight, would have been considered middle-aged to older by then.
Whatever.
Okay, so anyways, what are we saying about this? This is the tone, power.
It's the theme.
You were, I guess, really involved with having control. It's kind of funny because this would be the one thing that maybe, doesn't describe your life currently. You're sort of at home in nature. But in a way, it does give you that power you need, that control or dominion over aspects of your life.
Feeling in control and feeling empowered or in your power made you feel good. It's possible here you're leading others to their destinations, even if it was like a war party that you were leading. I mean, you were a trader, but you may have had to do other things for your tribe. And so it's possible here, you felt a lot of power through what you were doing. And maybe even with your trade, you were a good trader. You made good deals. See, right there. That's the theme too.
Oh,
you were single.
The hermit. Look at that.
You were single. I just think that's why it came up the way it did for the theme. Obviously, too, maybe you enjoyed some solitary moments in life.
That's why the Knight of Cups is reversed.
Why you also liked the forest. You felt really at home in that environment and you knew it like secondhand. You got to know it like it was your second hand.
Right, a hermit usually lives alone somewhere in nature.
So?
How'd you die?
How'd you die?
How'd you die?
You gonna make me pick death again?
Googly eyes there.
I think it's my turn to pick death again.
No, it isn't.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll do the last one then.
Just pick one, though. She can't die twice.
That's true.
Well, who knows, right?
Well.
Oh. Catastrophe. I
Maybe,
know, dun dun dun!
They show a volcano there, and I don't know if anything was active during the Native American periods in
America.
Canada or the U.S. It could have been an earthquake, maybe a tree falling on you or something. It could have been some other kind of catastrophe. I'm not so sure about flood. I'm not feeling the water thing. But no. I do feel that it was something, it could have been a fire. Forests burned back then, I'm sure, too, from lightning strikes and things like that.
Well, anything that you don't foresee and that is really, dramatic and traumatic could be a catastrophe. What if there's a stampede of buffalo that just totally mows down like your entire, right? Community,
Okay. I like that. I'll buy it.
The volcano looks like a nuke. Yeah, you're right, it does. Future times will stand and surely see.
So let's see what is imprinted on you from that
takeaway.
Life. The takeaway, so to speak. Oh. Interesting. It's physical issues, illness, accident, or injury. So, accident, catastrophe, injury. When I think of injury, you know what this might tell me, and I hate to bring it up, but we'll see. I'm wondering if you did not pass away right away, that you had some kind of injury that ultimately proved fatal from whatever the catastrophe was.
Well, my thought is that what if the catastrophe was something that was preventable, that somebody didn't do something and led a chain of steps that led to this. And of course, I can't totally imagine it. Maybe there was a warning system that wasn't heeded or wasn't deployed.
I need the number on that card.
You need number 60.
60?
60.
There is no 60.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at the volcano one. It's 30.
Thank
physical issues.
Okay, I forgot it was called physical issues. I was looking for something else. 20. All right, here it is. Let's see. Oh, it's number 20.
No, it's 30.
It's 30?
I told you this.
Illness, accident, injury. Re-scripting past life traumas can often heal the physical problems you may be facing. So investigating the source of your present condition may give you some clues. You can find guidance with your physical patterns. She's into Louise Hay's books. But let's see here. Many physical problems can be traced back to past life illness and trauma. So if you have a physical problem that is vexing you today, it could be that this past life has something to do with that. The trauma that you experienced here.
Right. I mean, I feel like you're really in touch with nature, but maybe you're driven more to nature because of something that connects you to understanding or feeling that trauma from this catastrophe.
Let me give you some great examples here.
Okay, we need those.
If you were hanged in the past, you could have neck and shoulder pain or throat or thyroid problems
I've
now.
heard this.
If you suffered broken or even crushed bones in some kind of past life accident, it could be the source of conditions like arthritis or fibromyalgia. Drowning or suffocation could lead to all sorts of breathing problems. So think in terms of the physical ailments, and maybe it hasn't manifested for you yet. So if something up and comes in your life, it could be the imprint from this past life that holds that key.
We'll leave it at that.
Wow.
So thanks for... I hit the wrong button. That is all. You don't have to get
Moving on. Last one, and it's late. Let's go. Oh my gosh. It's nearly 10. Our over 3-hour show.
Ha, ha, ha.
I will definitely downsize this a little bit. But it was fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
All right, who's our last reading?
Alicia.
Alicia.
Hey there. Are you here?
I hope
Are we
you're
just going to
still
do a reading
here.
for you and then let you know it was done?
Did she want a general? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I wouldn't blame her if she disappeared, but we'll still do a general then. Right, because she didn't know what was going on. What's going on? Is there a list? Yes, I will stay. Okay, so if you are here, maybe you'll show up in a moment. Otherwise, we are just going to do a general past life for you, and I'll let you know. I have your email, so I'll let you know it was done. You're on the list. We're going to do it.
All right, we're going to do it. Kara has shoulder problems. Aha. There could be emanating from a past life. Gosh, I'm going to have to do an inventory of all my problems and think if they all came from one life or different ones. I have neck problems. They're kind of under control now, but I definitely had that.
No comment. Too many things in my life.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this disease, that disease, that strangulation, that near drowning.
Oh, gosh.
That time you fell and broke your head open. Yeah, I did that. I had 12 stitches in my head when I was 5 or 6.
This explains a lot about him, doesn't it?
It does. All right. So, Alicia, what was the culture of this past life we're looking at? The possible era? Ooh.
Oh,
Egypt.
well.
Egypt.
I think this goes back to the time of the
This
pharaohs.
is obviously talking about ancient Egypt.
Don't you think?
Oh, for sure. So there was something that put you in a past life in Egypt. Let's find out more about that.
We haven't found out. We haven't done. I don't think Egypt has come up much in our past life readings, to be honest.
At any point in time. Right? All right, so am I doing this one?
Yes, you're going to do the environment.
Greens. So Egypt, of course, in modern times is a lot of desert, but I'm told in the very ancient times it was actually pretty equatorial, that there was forest and much more water. But let's see what we got. And you were in a forest.
Wow.
So this would say, from my point of view,
It goes
this
way
was
back.
way back. This could be,
So do you think it's before the pharaohs?
or nearly.
Wow.
Some people have speculated that the erosion around the Sphinx is more the result of thousands of years of water, not desert sand eroding it. And so that says, like, when was Egypt forced, like, in more rain? 10,000 years ago, maybe. Who knows? We don't know. What do you got?
Well, I drew a card, and I was looking at both of those and trying to think how to crack this. The Four of Cups, but I feel like...
Is it for this one or that one?
It's really for either. I
Okay.
would put it with the forest, maybe. Because I think what I'm seeing here is that, the cycles of nature were really important. If you look at that card, it almost looks like different seasons are represented there. Or is this idea of that to me when I see that tree growth?
I that.
Just feel that, this was a very long, long time ago. And you're very much in tune with, doing things during the light of day. You had to go with the cycles of the seasons, whatever they were there in Egypt at that time. And
even if
live
it
in
was
harmony.
in the more considerable, Egyptian history 2 to 4000 BC, something like that, there certainly were other towns or areas in that area that may have had more forestry. I know that. All right, so the next card is the person. Who were you? What kind of person were you? Do you want to pick it?
No.
All right.
I got these. That's why I'd make you pick these then. And they are kind of hard to shuffle.
And you're the King of Wands.
Oh, that's different.
The upright King of Wands. So you're a charming person. You're brave. You possibly have privilege or some advantage. You may not be a pharaoh, of course, but maybe you're a person of means of some sort. And you have a noble qualities and charisma. People like you and are willing to follow you. So you may actually be somebody in charge, perhaps.
Well, this kind of flies in the face of what I was going to say. But, yeah. Okay, so when I saw that King of Wands, I was feeling to myself that you were a leader. People either looked up to you for leadership or your strength and courage, okay, as a leader.
Oh, you weren't just any leader. He might have been a bully.
You pushed your weight around a little bit, I would say. And as a matter of fact, remember how I was saying courage and strength, which are hallmarks of the King of Wands. The Dancer is about self-expression and strength. So in other words, I think you expressed yourself in a strong manner, a very leader-like manner, and you kind of pushed your weight around a little bit when you needed to. This is light attributes of the bully, and so I'm kind of feeling here that sometimes you had to just do that to get people in line.
The King of Wands probably carries more of the burden of being a better person than that would.
Yes.
That maybe you were mostly a good person, but when you needed to dance between things that needed resolving, you had to put on your big boy panties or whatever it was and do what needed to be
Your
done.
mean boy panties.
Your mean boy panties. That's right.
But, overall, you probably lived to some maturity once again. You were probably a fire sign, with that kind of fire energy, Wands energy.
Leo, Aries.
Yeah. And I'm almost sensing with the bully and that, you could have been an Aries for sure. You could have been a Leo because of the showmanship part of this. So one of those two, I think.
All right.
So that's a little bit of something.
Occupation.
Occupation.
Do you want this?
Wow, Alicia, you are a tough cookie. right there. What?
This is your occupation.
This cannot be. This really cannot be.
Oh. Well, I don't know how. It says you're a courtesan. On the other hand, it could say that maybe, the person you loved or cared about, or somebody in your life, or... There's something going on there. What is this?
I'm thinking that. I actually thought this does not fit what I'm seeing here. And so I can't help but wonder if you weren't in love with somebody, or, you were just, maybe you weren't in a marriage. You were a position of power, a leader, and so
you had courtesans.
Had slaves, perhaps, that, you took advantage of.
Well, a courtesan is more like a person who isn't really
That's
a
true.
slave.
That is true.
There's a sense of privilege there. They may be more like an indentured servant, but they're not exactly like that either, I think.
Yeah.
Kara knows, right? You were one before in a past life.
Wasn't she? I think...
Maybe.
I don't remember, but certainly...
that
has come up before.
You're not a prostitute.
But I don't think you, Alicia, were. But I think you had,
This was a big involvement. And is that what the idea of the Four Cups and choice, maybe? Does that have a shade there? Maybe. What you chose was not typical, perhaps?
So I don't think you really engaged in a coupling. So, a traditional kind of marriage.
You were too busy. And or you didn't want the responsibilities.
But of course you wanted to unwind sometimes. Let off a little steam.
Is it time for the theme?
It's time for the theme, absolutely.
I think you should pick this one.
Okay, well, do you want to pick the major arcana out of here then?
Yes.
All right. Just shuffle and then find the first major arcana. So... So it's 2 again.
How do you do that?
I don't know.
Do they both fit?
Well, they're fear and betrayal.
In a way. Maybe. I don't know what you want to do. It's your boo-boo, so you have to resolve it.
I don't know.
If you want to do both of them, we can.
Let's do both of them.
It's funny because they're 51 and 50.
Okay, that's interesting.
So there are 2 themes in your life, or that life, fear and betrayal. And so, of course, you were very afraid of being betrayed. Was it because the courtesan wasn't an appropriate relationship for you, or because you feared they were the person who might betray you? That kind of makes sense in a way.
Well, what makes more sense to me is the fact that, you had to bully people from time to time, and maybe some people did not like that. So, they could have betrayed you, or they could have felt betrayed by you. So in other words, I think in this life, Alicia, you did make some powerful enemies. How you navigated that remains to be seen. I think you were always watching your back. You may have been powerful, strong, and courageous, but you knew you crossed some lines from time to time.
Right.
And so you watched your back.
Being the occasional bully probably is what made you realize that at some point, you could be unlucky and you had to watch your back.
And finally...
How did it happen? Oh, I didn't...
Yeah, I don't think we were meant to, though, because
You're right, because we pulled the 2.
Yeah.
You were drowned.
Water death again.
You died through water.
Well, it's interesting to me because water's a very... as a matter of fact, this might be one of the few times I might want to just see what I get with a regular card. I think here water could be a deliberate drowning, like maybe somebody pushed you into the water. And seeing that betrayal and fear card here, I have to wonder. But I would also say that, you may have just drowned. There may have been a flood, or there may have been, and when I say that, I don't know that, you spoke of forests in the Egyptian era, but was there, or back in the day, way back, like if this would be for Alicia, do you think that there were flooding rains, monsoon rains in Egypt?
Always. That's the whole religion of Egypt, is about the flooding waters.
That's right.
Yes.
So that's it.
Were you a ritual sacrifice even?
Well, it could have been accidental, but I'm just saying that maybe somebody possibly committed a crime here. So I just want to see if I get any kind of negative card that could indicate that. Real quick, since it's our last reading and we're already so far into overtime. No, I don't see that. And you know what's interesting here is just seeing more water. More water. So I do feel here it might have been accidental. It might have been the monsoon rains that got you. And I do feel here, because you were a king again, right? This was another king. You lived to some level of maturity.
Right, I felt that way too, that, this was not a young death. And of course, people were old by the time they were 50 if they lived that long even. So it's hard to say the exact age, but you lived to be what would be considered to be a mature person. It does feel like the takeaway to me was realizing that your life had these kind of problems in it that surmounted to being worried about where you were betrayed, because you had to use force sometimes to work what the role you were charged to do, whether it was for your personal life or others. And so you realize, I think, in this life or in other lives, that opportunities may take you in a direction and you should make the best of them. It sounds a little cavalier, but maybe that describes you now too, in a way. You're a sound business person making good business decisions, or hopefully.
Well, maybe, you were able to control being strong and a vibrant leader, but you made some powerful enemies, and you did not get married from the looks of things. You had, your sex with a courtesan. So maybe now you're dealing with abandonment issues. What number is that?
4. Feelings of unworthiness or rejection.
It does seem to act like, maybe this idea, you felt inadequate and always feeling like maybe people rejected you. Maybe people only followed you because you were strong and a leader and they needed support. But you felt like, you were really alone. That these people would have, they looked up to you, but you had no friends. You had no family. You felt in a way incomplete. And so now maybe this feelings, a sense of rejection is playing out with you, but it's possible here that it could play out in different ways. I mean, you could be more independent now because of this abandonment. Maybe in this lifetime, your independence is coming through, that you don't need anybody. They rejected me before, but now in this life, I don't care because I don't need anybody. Or it could be playing out the other way.
Well, it could be from a little bit of a sense of atonement. You realize that you were a bully or a forceful person, or somebody who tried to order people about in different ways. And so this is your life where you try to balance that scale by maybe, not needing people so much, or feeling the sense that those actions pushed you away from people, and now maybe you are atoning by doing that in the real life. Bye, Russ.
Take care, Russ. We're done. Pretty much. That's it. That's what we have for you. It's really interesting. I thank everybody, and also just say, Mr. O, we went an hour and
Thank
what?
you.
An hour and
13 minutes.
Yeah.
3 hours
So
and
I
13
think
minutes.
here we have to try to find a way
We'll
to
never
at
do
least
it again.
to at least do 10 readings in a 2-hour span.
Yeah, that would be the goal.
That would be the goal. And then for people we can't fit in, we could start a list of names and do them. You know, if they come to the next one we do, they would get priority because they missed out on this one.
Well, that's 120 minutes, so that's literally 12 minutes per reading. And that means we definitely would have to have a more controllable amount of cards for that.
I think we'll find different ways to do it and deal with
Sure.
shuffling the cards so it won't take as much time. We'll figure it out. But anyway, thanks for this maiden voyage, this restart of what we used to do years ago, past life shows. So
Thank you, Victorious. And
hopefully
I'm glad
we will do
everybody
more of
enjoyed
these.
that. Love and light to all of you, too. Thank you so much
thank
for your
you all.
blessing.
Sorry I haven't been spending much time on the chat, but I have computer problems right now, so...
And we don't have an end scene theme running, so when we sign off, we'll just sign off.
Oh, so I can't even leave a goodbye message.
Just
So-
do it now.
I'll just say it now. Thanks, everybody. You know, we love you so much. We appreciate the support we get from the little tarot tribe we are forming here. And we hope to be producing some more interesting programming for you over time. So take care. Have a great rest of your day or evening. And hopefully we'll see you at one of our other shows this weekend. Okay.
Bye.
Bye for now.